Gordon asks him to step out of the shadow so that he can see Batman's face. How many people, Batman? I have to know. But Batman just looks at him and says nothing. That bad, huh? I need to know what you saw, Jim, Batman asks him. I swear he was holding a gun. I swear on it. But they showed me the footage. I shot an unarmed man and in the process, killed so many innocent people. There has to be more to this. Let me get a blood sample, Batman says, taking Jim's hand. Maybe I just made a mistake, Batman. Maybe I saw something that wasn't there. I know that's not true, Jim, and you do too. I know you feel it. Batman takes off to inspect the footage of the subway, and he finds himself joined by Catwoman. While she's trying to get his mind off of the case because she's bored, he manages to realize who the man that Gordon shot at is. He's a thug for Carmine Falcone, and that means that Falcone has returned to Gotham. Catwoman reels back in shock, because Carmine and her have history that ended with her scarring his face last time. Elsewhere in Gotham, a young girl named Stephanie Brown is returning home, and she needs to get into the garage, but oddly, she's found that her father has locked it. So she sneaked into the side window to discover her father is in a costume surrounded by supervillains, and apparently is planning something. Then she finds herself knocked out. Back in the cells of the GCPD, Barrett is asking Gordon how he's holding up. Gordon is his hero, and he doesn't like that he had to arrest him on day one. But Gordon assures him that he did the right thing. So Barrett asks him. He's out there, isn't he? Batman is on the case. Over in the Batcave, Batman is trying to put all of this together. Professor Pig, the random thug, Carmine Falcone, and conveniently, Penguin is apparently moving shipments of weapons all over the city tonight. It's all coming together. He can see it. There's a gang war coming, and Gordon is trapped in the middle. All over Gotham, the elements begin to move faster and faster. Stephanie Brown wakes up with a gun pressed to her head from her father, and he begins to open fire on her, telling her that she was a mistake, and maybe he can get it right the second time. She flees from the house as quickly as possible, and she begins to run down the street. She'll be on the run for a bit, and we'll come back to her much later. While on the rest of Gotham, all of the gangs are getting more courageous because someone in the police station is canceling all of the calls to the police. The police have no idea what's going on. To make matters worse, the new commissioner, Ford, has decided to send the entire GCPD after the vigilante known as Batman, and Commissioner Gordon has been sentenced to Blackgate Prison without parole. While Batman does his own investigation trying to get answers out of Carmine, Batgirl tracks her own clues, and she decides that she will save her father, leaving Batman to his own devices as she leaves for her own investigation. Batman takes off to see if he can get Red Robin's help, but Red Robin has already come to town, and he's begun investigating a situation in which children have gone missing, and he's kind of unavailable right now. As Batman leaves, we see that Red Robin is dealing with a case all of his own in which the children are getting sick or they go missing. He's traced the situation back to some crazy new nanotechnology, and just as he begins to figure out who's controlling this technology, it wakes up. Oh hell, he says as it approaches him. But while this is going on, a young girl named Harper Rowe is saving Vicky Val, and they are both on the floor right beneath Red Robin as he comes crashing through the floor. The nanoswarm looks up and it sees all of these gang members and Vicky Val and Harper Rowe, and it decides that they are the newest threats, so it moves from Red Robin to assault them. Red Robin runs out of the room yelling for everyone to follow him, and they lock the swarm inside. But the swarm just assaults one of Harper Rowe's friends named Cullen. It goes inside of him, and it goes dormant, as he falls to the ground unconscious. Red Robin, Vicky, and Harper all stand there, unsure of what they should do next. Meanwhile, across the globe in Tokyo, a man is staring at his computer, with a newspaper in front of him. The paper reads, "The gang war is going to be breaking out soon," by Vicky Vale. And on his screen, he can see that the swarms have activated. Oh dear, young Mr. Wayne isn't going to like this one bit. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Batman is getting some weird reports about Arkham Asylum and some weird mystical energies happening underneath it. So he sends in Batwing to help Spectre. And Batwing and Spectre have quite an adventure ahead of them, as Batman himself begins to follow a fleeing truck that he tagged earlier during one of the shipments. It's time to see where this is going. As he gets closer to the truck, those mystical energies that were underneath Arkham Asylum decided to leak underneath Gotham itself, and they blow up on the truck right in front of the Batmobile. The truck and the Batmobile catch on fire, and the truck begins to roll around. Thinking quickly, Batman grabs the thug that was inside of the truck and he questions him. "Where are you going? Who hired you?" But before he can get any other answers out of the man, Professor Pig walks out of a nearby hideout and demands to know who would sully his perfection. Batman grabs a bat bike and he begins to charge in, battling against all of the Dai-Lato that Professor Pig is sending at him. On the other side of Gotham, Carmine sits with his men. The explosion wasn't his. It was someone else intercepting their bomb with their own bomb. And now Batman is involved, and he's busy fighting with Professor Pig. Very good, Carmine says. If your associate is as good as he says, then by morning, the real rulers of this city will have it back from the freaks. But while both of these events are happening, Catwoman has broken into Penguin's hideout and is battling against him because she doesn't care if Carmine and Penguin have their little gang war. But the moment that the poor people of Gotham Underground have been dragged into it, she wants to remove the threat herself. She's wrecking Penguin, but he has a secret weapon up his sleeve and he knocks Catwoman to the ground before he begins to get word that Carmine's underwater attack is starting on his Harborside Casino hideout. Distracted by the attack happening on his hideout, Catwoman gets back up and she jumps on Penguin to continue her assault. But that's when Penguin explains that he isn't doing anything to the Gotham Underground. Just like the missing children, people are missing from the underground and no one knows why. The citizens of Gotham Underground have come to Penguin for his protection, and he's been providing it. He explains that he unified Gotham underneath him to keep the violence from spilling out onto the streets, but Carmine would rather have the old days where children caught bullets meant for thugs. This is a war for the heart of Gotham, and she needs to decide what side she is on, because she's a lot more important than you or I both know. At that exact moment, an explosion rocks the hideout of Penguin, and Carmine looks out over the bay. That boom was beautiful. During all of this, Batman has finally been able to push back these doll creations and get to Professor Pig, the Professor Pig that started all of this by trapping Gordon with Carmine's thug. But when he questions Professor Pig as to what he was doing, what he did to Gordon, Pig just tells him that he's been working for Carmine Falcone. Batman tries to get through to Pig to explain that he's been set up, give him the information that he needs, and Carmine is going to destroy the streets with Pig on them. But Pig doesn't listen, as Batman ends this by destroying the device that Pig is using to control the dolls. Back with Catwoman in Penguin's hideout, she's trying her best to save the poor workers of this casino while it begins to sink into the bay. She gets out who she can and then she makes her way back out of the water where she saves Penguin from a killer whale that's been set loose in the bay. Batman ties up Pig for the police and he leaves the area. Then the new commissioner arrives, Commissioner Forbes, to set Pig free. This city needs a message loud and clear. The Gotham PD no longer works with Batman or any of the capes. As morning begins to arrive on Gotham, Batman and Catwoman clean up the mess from the explosions. But the war has officially started. Penguin and Carmine's gangs are about to begin battling, and the capes are going to be stuck in the middle of this. Meanwhile, across Gotham, one of Carmine's facilities explodes as Professor Pig has left a bomb in it. He thanks the GCPD for making Gotham his new laboratory. The new Commissioner Forbes turns on the bat signal, and he listens to the newest police detective, Jason Bard, behind him. For the record, Commissioner, I'm against this. Duly noted, LT. Once the sign on my door reads Bard and not Forbes, then someone might give a damn. But for now, this is my police force, not yours, not Jim Gordon's, and certainly not Batman's. It is then that we pan out to see the entire GCPD police force waiting. Let's get ready for him. It doesn't take long for Batman to arrive. Commissioner Forbes, you called? I came. We should talk. Your predecessor, Commissioner Gordon, and I had an understanding. James Gordon was a rotten cop with no respect for the law. You and I want the same things, to keep Gotham safe. I'm here to keep the criminals off the streets. I want them off the streets starting with you. And Forbes raises his hands to tell the units to fire. But Bard shouts out, D-Unit, fire! D-Unit is the smoke grenade unit, and the entire rooftop begins to fill up, allowing Batman to disarm everyone in the smoke. But once he moves through the smoke, Bard gets a perfect shot lined up with Batman's head, and he lowers his weapon. As Batman leaves the roof, Forbes smashes the bat signal, ending the GCPD's connection with Batman. Batman gets back to the Batcave where he turns to Alfred. I might still have some help on the GCPD, but I'm gonna go to Hong Kong. Falcone came back to Gotham for a reason, and I'm gonna find out why. As Batman leaves Gotham, Forbes gets picked up by the thugs of Falcone and brought to Falcone himself. It happened again, Forbes. I thought we had an arrangement. You promised to get a handle on the costume freaks in this town as a condition of your employment. Someone broke into my hideouts and got away with $375,000 of my money. Batman is a lot of things, but a thief, Forbes says, shocked. Idiot, not Batman. I'm talking about Catwoman. I thought Batman was my priority. We put a scare into him. That's why he's not showing his face. Batman isn't afraid to show his face. If he isn't making trouble for me, then he's not in Gotham right now. Across the globe in Hong Kong, Batman is currently battling against ninjas with one of the many members of Batman Incorporated, Zero. Zero and Canary have been working with Batman to figure out what would make Falcone leave his gang war in Hong Kong and go back to Gotham. He was winning against Fang with the help of the Yakuza. With him gone, the Fang took over, so Zero and Batman decided to pay the Fang a visit by going to the Fang's leader, only to walk right into the middle of somebody else already breaking in. The mysterious woman gets stabbed by Shen Fang, the leader of the Fang, and Batman begins to beat on the man, demanding to know how Fang suddenly won this war, and why did Falcone leave Hong Kong. At first, Shen Fang stands strong, but it doesn't take long for Batman to get his answers. Fang never won. Falcone was offered a buyout because, as he put it, he had unfinished business in Gotham, and someone told him it was time to come back. Batman finishes Shen Fang, and Zero arrives just in time to ask Batman, "Who's that woman?" Once Batman gets into the Batplane, he looks up her name and he radios back to Alfred. "I need the guest room prepared for a special guest. I'm bringing back Julia Pennyworth, your daughter." Meanwhile, back in Gotham, Catwoman continues breaking into Falcone's hideouts, only to find a small army waiting for her behind one of the doors. He quickly subdues her and he hauls her off. Catwoman and Falcone have a history, so he intends to enjoy this, and he ties her to a chair and he begins to torture her, telling her that he intends to become Gotham's protector, the true champion that they need. But right beneath both of them, Professor Pig hasn't forgotten how Falcone screwed him over in our last video, and he's currently killing all of Falcone's thugs as he climbs up to his penthouse. Catwoman scoffs at Falcone. "You'll never be a champion. We have Batman," and he throws her to the ground. Batman is nothing more than a protector of the costume freak parade. He keeps the status quo. He's so much weaker than I was told. But that catches Catwoman's attention. "What do you mean you were told?" Falcone ignores her. "I'm here to put the animals back in their cages." And that's the moment that Professor Pig arrives. "Don't bet the farm on that, Falcone! Yeah-yeah-yo!" Meanwhile, on the other side of Gotham, Stephanie Brown has snuck into the library after hours, where she does her research on a villain known as Clue Master. The man her father is claiming to be is nothing more than a D-list supervillain that has fought Batman a few odd times. Back with Professor Pig and Falcone, Pig has tied down Falcone and he's preparing to begin cutting and slicing him up. He'll make him better. Luckily, the hostage situation has made the news, and the GCPD have the building surrounded, so Batman comes crashing through the skylight, and he begins to beat some of the half-animals' heads in. He frees Catwoman as she begins to jump over, beating on the helpless Falcone, while Batman is busy with the thugs. He does manage to stop her, though, because he and her both need to leave before the GCPD storm this building. As Batman and Catwoman leave, she tells Batman what Falcone said, that someone told him this would happen. But the question is, once again, who is orchestrating this? Meanwhile, down in Brazil, Batgirl has tracked the man down that she believes is responsible for her father's incarceration. But it turns out to be just another patsy set up to distract her, and she fell for it. Luckily, Red Hood has been sent down by Batman to help her follow the trail and figure out who arranged all of this. But as she tells Red Hood, they need to hurry because they only have days before Gordon's sentencing. Back over at the Wayne Mansion, Julia Pennyworth wakes up and is groggy but grateful to be alive. But she's immediately furious when she sees her father. Alfred and his daughter haven't been in speaking terms for a long time because she just doesn't understand why a man that was once MI6 and worked for the Queen would give up his standing to go and work for some spoiled rich party boy. How could he leave her and her mother for this Wayne family, for the family that he chose? While this is going on, the gang war across Gotham rages on, with bullets flying all over from Falcone and Penguin. So Jason Bard rallies up the officers that he feels he can trust, which includes Harvey Bullock. He tells them that they need to take back this city because it's starting to get out of hand. And for every place that Falcone shoots up, Penguin burns down one of his. But Bullock looks at Bard. "The GCPD can't get involved. We're supposed to pretend that there isn't even a gang war thanks to the new commissioner." And Bard looks at him, who said, "We're gonna stop the gang war. We need to stop Batman, don't we?" Meanwhile, Red Robin is trying to figure out his own situation, which involves nanomachines infecting the brother of a girl he knows, Harper Row. He feels as though he can get some answers out of the recently incarcerated Professor Pig, but his computer informs him that Harper Row is currently hacking into the Bat Family computer network. How did she do that, he thinks to himself, as he heads back to Robin's nest. Back with the GCPD, Bullock uses the one method of contacting Batman that you never hear about, the bat phone. Batman arrives on a rooftop with Bullock and Bard standing there. What is he doing here? Batman asks Bullock, and Bullock explains that this was Bard's idea. He's just along for the ride. I have an idea how we can stop this gang war by the end of the week, but you just need to let us catch you, Batman. Back with Stephanie Brown, she gets a phone call from her roommate. You got a package, Stephanie. But Stephanie warns her not to open it. Something fishy is going on. Her roommate doesn't listen and opens it anyway to find a horse, one that is orange and blue. Steph thinks about it for a minute and simply says, it's a clue. But that's when her roommate follows up with another comment. This box is ticking, Steph. Instantly, the entire apartment explodes. Across Gotham, the entire GCPD strike team is watching as Batman enters a building. This is it, Bard shouts. We have Batman and his thugs cornered. They kick the door in and they aim their weapons at the gang members sitting there. One of the strike team members turns to Bard. Sir, these don't look like bat people to me. They don't, do they? That sure looks like a bat tattoo on that man's arm, implying that the mark that is actually the mark of the Falcone gang is actually Batman's gang symbol. The strike team member immediately gets what they're doing. Ha! Sir, yes sir, that is definitely the bat's mark. So the police haul off Falcone's thugs, and Batman appears in front of Bard. Your plan, I'm impressed. Well, it's not over yet. The next day, Forbes comes storming into the GCPD offices. What the hell do you think you're doing, Bard? I was arresting known accomplices of the vigilante Batman, sir. Do those men look like Robins or Nightbirds or whatever? Sir, they're all guilty of possession. I don't care, Bard. And that's when Vicky Vale steps up. Now that's a quote. Is it true, Commissioner Forbes, that you are not allowing these men to be arrested? Forbes is now backed into a corner, and Bard lets Vicky begin to grill him as he goes back to arresting Batman's accomplices. Meanwhile, at the Robin's nest, Red Robin arrives and asks his computer where Harper Row is currently located. What he doesn't know is that she's actually hiding right behind him, in the nest. She traced his signal back to this location, but he does have other things to look into, so he decides that he'll talk to her once he gets back from Japan as he loads up into the Robin jet. On the other side of Gotham, tears stream down Stephanie Brown's face as she looks from across the street at her burning apartment building. How could it go this far? She was just a simple girl. And on a computer screen watching her is her father, the Clue Master. Now there's one plotline that we haven't mentioned yet, the cursed hauntings at Arkham Asylum. Well, don't worry, it's still going on as Scarecrow is running from whatever is haunting the asylum. He is afraid, and whatever it is, pulls him through the wall. Back with the other gang, Penguin is furious that he's been forced into hiding by Falcone. He's worth $19 million. He shouldn't be hiding. But a rather interesting phone call comes over the wire, one that informs Penguin of Falcone's whereabouts. In his hideout, Falcone is screaming into a phone demanding to know what is going on with the police. Who is this cop that is messing up their plans? And that's when he gets a knock at the door. He opens it to find all of his men dead. Penguin is standing there and he launches a knife into Falcone's hand, putting him to his knees with no guards to protect him. You disgusting little... Oh, let's keep this dignified. Penguin stabs Falcone again. I'm what this city made me. I'm a creature of the now. Penguin takes his blade and he presses it against Falcone's neck, just as all of the lights come on. And there at the end of the hallway is the GCPD, led by Jason Bard and Vicky Vale. Bard arrests both men on multiple accounts of murder and attempted murder. And when they both try to argue that Forbes will have his head for this, he informs them that he had Forbes arrested that morning. Meanwhile, Red Robin is flying over the Pacific Ocean, looking at all of the news reports coming in. Hero cop Bard ends gang war overnight. Penguin's feathers plucked. Carmine Falcone directly tied to criminal empire. Well, that was one hell of a night to leave Gotham. And just then his diagnostics check comes in, and it tells him that he has a passenger. In the cargo hold of his jet is Harper Row, eating cheese puffs. You have got to be kidding me! Back with Batman, he confronts Jason Bard on the rooftop of the GCPD. Because what he did was incredible. But at the same time, he was the one that sent Penguin to Falcone's location.
That's still recharging. It's too far away. I need to get closer. It's too far away. I need more mana. I can't cast that yet. I'm out of range. I need to get closer. too far away. I'm out of range. I need to get closer. That spell isn't ready yet. I'm out of range. It's too far away. I'm out of range. I don't have a target. It's too far away. That's still recharging. I need to get closer. I'm out of range. I need to get closer. That spell isn't ready yet. I can't cast that yet.
And it cost 12 people their lives. But Bard tells him, I'm changing the city for the better, Batman, and I'll do whatever it takes to get there. And I want you to do it with me, together. But as he turns around, Batman's already left. Lastly, we end this chapter by cutting back to Scarecrow to see what it is that he's truly afraid of in Arkham Asylum. Joker's daughter has him pinned to the ground, and she has a hatchet ready to slam into his face. The little Bat Boy and his ghostly friend are about to pay us a visit, and I can't have any distractions. So I'll just take care of you right now. After all, that's what my daddy told me. Red Robin found a stowaway on his plane. Harper, just come out. I know you're there, he calls out to her in the cargo hold of the ship. Red Robin has begun investigating children that have recently gotten sick with nanomachines. One of these children was Harper's brother. And when Red Robin decided to go to Japan to see if he can find the inventor of the nanomachines, Harper Rose stowed aboard. You just let me crouch back there this whole time? Harper yelled as she came out of the cargo hold. Damn right I did. You stow away, you deserve 9 hours of sitting in a stress position. How did you even get on board? I hid right behind you the whole way, like a ninja. Sure you did. You stay here while I'll find this Sergey guy. He made the robots from what I can find, and I'm not babysitting you. Look, Robin, this is my family, and I can handle myself. The name is Red Robin, and no dice. This isn't amateur hour. And on that note, Red Robin walked into the city. Meanwhile, back in Gotham, Batwing and Spectre are investigating the reports of hauntings in Arkham Asylum. Batwing is a member of Batman Incorporated, the organization that Batman started to get other like-minded heroes under his wing. And Spectre is the Holy Spirit of Vengeance, housed in the body of Jim Corrigan. They begin investigating the lower levels and quickly discover the sight of blood falling up from the floor. There's an etheric pylon underneath this cell. The good news is that this means that we're getting close. The bad news means that this is someone that can work with skill, Corrigan says as the two men follow their clues and they go deeper into the building. I say we get Batman and the whole crew down here. This might be a bit much for us, Batwing tells him. Batman is busy with the gang war, and since you might not be able to communicate with your team while we're down here, if you want to turn around, you're welcome to. But I need to stop this, Corrigan says as they exit through the back door and into some caverns beneath Arkham. What they find sends a chill down Batwing's spine, because it's a man with his head bound in a bag being suspended in the air and the blood being drained from his body and flowing upwards. I think I know who's behind all of this, Corrigan says. Meanwhile, down in Brazil, Batgirl and Red Hood have tracked their lead down to a plastic surgeon, and as soon as they break the door open, they find Batwoman standing there holding the person that they want to interrogate by his shirt. You're here too? Batgirl exclaims. I followed my own trail here, Batgirl, but it would seem that I'm on the right track. Fine, whatever, I want to go first. Batgirl grabs the doctor and begins to find out her next clue. Over in Japan, Red Robin finds himself thrown out of the scientist's lab and thrown onto the ground right in front of Harper. I told you to stay with the plane! Red Robin, I know, and I totally didn't listen. Then they both turn around to find an old man with a monkey. Excellent, you two survived. Now we can talk, and then we can test you again. Back beneath Arkham Asylum, Batwing and Jim Corrigan have battled ghosts, empty vessels, and even the Joker's daughter to find themselves in front of the man behind the entire haunting of Arkham, Deacon Blackfire. They begin to fight against the undead beings that they were supposed to be stopping, while the Joker's daughter watches from the outskirts, showing a severed head the entire battle. Batwing and Corrigan find themselves overwhelmed and separated, while Joker's daughter continues to look on. And just when Corrigan finally decides he needs his own internal demon, the Spirit of Vengeance, Spectre refuses to manifest itself, leaving Corrigan in a pool of black and murky water. Back in Japan, Red Robin and Harper aren't getting any answers out of the doctor that they came to see. His name is Sergey, and while he admits that the nanomachines are his, he has no idea how they got there, because those models were conveniently stolen. Meanwhile, over in Brazil, the team-up of Batgirl, Red Hood, and Batwoman is finally making some traction to find the man that arranged to have Jim Gordon sent to prison for manslaughter. Walking through the worst slums in the area, they come across a child, and after rescuing him and calling the child a painted horse with his poor Portuguese, Red Hood figures out that this child is from a nearby sweatshop, and Batgirl's target is in there also. Back in Gotham finally, Batman and Bard are working together to clean up the streets, which includes tracking down the missing people from the Gotham Underground that Catwoman mentioned a while back. Batman isn't sure if he can trust Bard, because as Batman puts it, Bard's intentions are too good. But he does follow Bard down into the sewers as Bard is tracking down these missing children. In the sewer, they don't find any missing children, but they do find Killer Croc, and he's none too happy to see Batman and this cop on his turf. As Bard falls into the water, he yells out that Croc is under arrest for the suspected kidnapping and murder of multiple victims. But Croc just seems shocked. Kidnapping? Those people came to me! They wanted my help! And he grabs Officer Bard and gets ready to feast on a cop when Batman leaps onto his back. Croc, I know you didn't do it. I know, look at the wall. On the wall of the sewer is a black handprint. The trio agree to work together for now, because those handprints are linked to some rather odd creatures, and Croc can bring Batman to a location where he's been stashing the ones that he's been finding. Back in Brazil, Red Hood is spying in on the sweatshop. There's a lot of things that a person can do to guarantee a bullet for me, but enslaving a bunch of kids is definitely a way to get a full clip from me. We said no killing, Red Robin. Batman's rules, Batwoman tells him. Not my fault if I get confused and someone's face looks like their kneecap. Let's just break in there. I'll get the guards to the left. No, if we break in Red Hood style, whoever's in charge of this and whoever framed my father will get away. We're gonna go in stealth, Batgirl tells him. So they sneak in, slowly knocking out the guards and creeping over the shipment crates. But it's Batgirl who walks into the main office to find her target sitting there, with the Bat Family toys making a business deal. He stands up and he looks right at Batgirl, right in the eyes. And she finds herself mesmerized. Then, out of the blue, Red Hood and Batwoman find Batgirl leaping at them ready to fight. She begins throwing her batarangs at two individuals that she sees, which is actually the Joker and her brother. She doesn't see Red Hood and Batwoman. Red Hood looks at her. She doesn't see us, does she, Batwoman? Nope. Just like Commissioner Gordon saw a guy that wasn't there. So this is some kind of mind control device. Yep, looks like the one used by the Mad Hatter. So we're fighting a knockoff Mad Hatter, which means Batgirl is right and our culprit is here. Go get him, Batwoman. I'll get Batgirl. But, look, I'll do my best not to shoot her. And with that, Batgirl cracks Red Hood across the face with a kick. And while I'm at it, I'll try and not die. Meanwhile, back in Gotham, Croc has brought Bard and Batman to his cage, where he's keeping the reanimated corpses that he's been finding. The ones that have been leaving behind black handprints, and the ones who have been kidnapping people from the Gotham Underground. Batman got reports from the two men that he sent to Arkham Asylum that these black handprints were linked to the undead, and that's why he believed Croc. But Batman knows these things. They aren't from this world, or from some hell beneath Gotham like Croc believes. They're extra-dimensional aliens. But while Batman is explaining this, Bard is looking at some police officer equipment that he's found, and the names on the badges are the names of the officers that have been missing. Batman finishes by stating that these creatures are probably right beneath him in the caverns somewhere, because wherever they're bringing these kidnapped people to, it will be somewhere where they're at their strongest, and that's going to be deeper down. So Batman leaps off the cliff head first, ready to fight whatever's down below. Back in Brazil, Red Hood finds himself kicked down into the sweatshop area, and he rubs his head and sees all of the children around him. Look, I probably got a concussion, so I'm not gonna bother with the Portuguese. Get out of here! Run, kids, run! Get the hell out! But one of the thugs stops the kids by holding a gun to their heads. So Red Hood shoots him in the kneecap. Damn concussion, I was aiming for your head. And then Batgirl lands in front of him. Oh hey, Batgirl. Batwoman has made her way to the Madman's office during this time though, and as she knows what technology he's using, she knows exactly how to prevent it from affecting her, and she walks right up to him and sticks him with a version of Scarecrow's fear toxin. He freaks out and runs to the door. Down with Batgirl and Red Hood, he's finally noticed that all of the children have left the area. Haha, playtime's over. So he leaps right at Batgirl. I know you have a photographic memory, BG, so remember this, and you'll know that I'm not your enemy. The autumn evening, yellow and orange leaves, the dinner party at the manor. The whole time he's trying to remind her, he's literally letting her kick him around, uppercuts to the face, kicks to the head, and eventually his entire helmet is cracked out. You kept looking away from me, and I thought you were nervous, liked me even. So I said, what's wrong, Red? And you gave me this cold, disappointed look and said, you'll never be Dick Grayson. Come on, Batgirl, you have this photographic memory. Well, remember this because I only remember the important things. And with that finally jogging Batgirl's memory, she stops, and she falls into Red Hood's arms. Like the day that I finally got to meet Batgirl. Oh God, Jason. While they were resolving this, the good doctor behind the entire scheme, Dr. Falsario, has made his break out the back door, terrified out of his mind. And Batgirl sees him leaving and shouts, he's mine. Back beneath Gotham, Batman, Croc, and Bard have already managed to find the extra-dimensional aliens and started fighting them back. Down there is the girl Jade that Croc was trying to protect, the one that begged for his help. And the aliens are moving so fast that they opened a portal back home as they try to suck up Croc's friend Jade. Batman moves quickly, firing his grappling hook to catch the young girl and pull her out of it. But as it turns out, the kidnapped kids were the power source for the portals, and it shuts down as Batman pulls her closer. The whole portal area begins to come down as Croc throws Jade over to Bard. Then both Croc and Batman leap off the portal area as it all comes crumbling down to the depths below. Batman, Bard, and Croc all brace themselves as they fall onto a ledge, and the whole group hits a safe spot. I got what I came for, Bats! So this is where we part, Croc says to Batman, but Bard pulls a gun on Croc. You're under arrest for the suspected murder of 3 Gotham City police officers. Oh, is that right? Back in your lair, there were the vests of missing officers. Those were dirty cops. But realizing that Bard's not gonna listen to reason, Croc pushes Jade to Batman and backs through a wall behind him, crushing the entryway and blocking Bard from getting to him. Bard then opens fire on the rocks, hoping to get in a lucky shot, but he doesn't succeed. Over in Brazil, Batgirl has finally caught up to Dr. Falsario, the man responsible for her father's crime and the true mastermind behind what happened to Jim Gordon. But just as she goes in to capture him, he's murdered by an assassin. Looking around, she sees nothing but a sword lodged into a tree. She walks back to the factory defeated, and Red Hood stands there with a flash drive. Don't worry about him, Barb. Batwoman pulled all of the evidence off of his computer. Your dad'll be going free. Meanwhile, back in Gotham, during all of this, Stephanie Brown has decided that it's time for her to do something. It's time for her to spoil her dad's clues. As the spoiler, Batman calls up Alfred, letting him know that Alfred may have been right. Bard might just be a good cop. So Batman arranges for the police to allow him to speak to Falcone, and he opens up their discussion by punching him across the jaw. You lied. You said that you had nothing to do with Jim Gordon's framing, but my agents found Dr. Falsario, the man that hypnotized Gordon, and he was murdered by a man on your payroll. We can tell because the assassin left behind a ceremonial knife that was passed from crime lord to crime lord. So I'm going to ask you one more time. Who's behind all of this? Falcone just laughs at Batman. I told you, I have no idea. I just got this invitation. So Batman looks at the card Falcone is holding. You have been cordially invited to partake in the devastation of Gotham City. You know what this means, right, Bats? This is just the beginning. Batman's next stop is to Bard's office, where he hands him the Bat flash drive. On this is all of the evidence that will clear Jim Gordon. It's all a part of a deliberate plan to start crippling Gotham City. Who do you think is behind all of this? And Batman just stares at him. You don't know, Bard says sadly. Meanwhile, at the Wayne Manor, Alfred and his daughter, who he hasn't seen since she was a child, are finally starting to make headway and connect. When alarms go off in Wayne Manor suddenly, almost on instinct, Alfred walks over to a safe room where he walks Julia in before knocking her out and sealing her inside of it. He then walks out of there with her pistol and begins to walk through the manor looking for the invader. But that's when Hush comes out of nowhere and sticks a syringe into his skull. Back at Blackgate Prison, a man is standing in front of one of the cells. We need your help. We need the architect. It's time for your role in the grand design to come into play. And after leaving the villain's uniform behind, he steps outside the prison, revealing Jason Bard. His phone suddenly rings and he answers it. Is it done? Yes, the architect is in play. And Batman? He doesn't suspect a thing. Bard then breaks the thumb drive in half as he says to himself, Gotham belongs to us now. Things begin with Julia trying to call Bruce to make him aware that something has happened to her father, but he's not answering. And Alfred manages to get the words out to her. Grandfather clock, 10:48. At first, she is lost as to what's going on, but when she turns around and sees the clock, she decides to spin the hands to 10:48 and is amazed when it opens up, revealing a secret passageway. Elsewhere, the architect has begun his assault on Arkham by taking over a tower that was still under construction. Batman sees him tearing apart the walls from a distance and setting something up, so he calls back to the Batcave, but no one answers. Until Julia Pennyworth ends up answering the call and to Batman's surprise, informs him that her father is currently being taken to the hospital. She tells Batman that he should go to her father, he should try to help. But Batman informs her that he can't, much to her dismay. Batman explains that he needs to get to the Architect's beacon now, or people are going to die. It's what Alfred would have wanted. So he goes to the tower and he gets inside and he starts taking out the guards and saving the hostages. And then he asks for Penny 2's help. Julia, help me. He needs to know the layout of the building so that he can get these hostages out. And once he does get them out with her help, he goes to the top where he slams the Architect into a wall. Who are you working for? This is only the start, Batman. But behind him, Batman can hear someone talking and a shot fired. No, not him. Penny 2, how did the attacker get into the mansion? Through the South Library. The clues are right there. It's the only person that it could have been. Hush. And behind Batman, Hush has killed one of the hostages. Meanwhile, in the Gotham Underground, some more of the thugs are fighting animals against each other until Catwoman comes in to rescue a snow leopard that they were just about to sacrifice to pit bulls. But as she tries to get out of the arena with the cat, the villainous character Tiger Shark takes a shot at her, ruining Catwoman's rescue operation. As she's mourning the loss of the snow leopard, a child by the name of Jade sneaks into Catwoman's apartment and tells her he needs her at Blackgate. Elsewhere, Croc's trying his best to find his way out of the tunnels beneath Gotham as he sealed himself there to avoid Jason Bard. His people need him, he screams out as he drops multiple undead creatures. Catwoman and Jade both make it to the cell in Blackgate that they were trying to get to. The cell of the last crime family in Gotham. The one that's been out of commission for the longest time. The one run by Catwoman's father. Catwoman grabs him and demands to know why he would use a child to get at her. And he explains, Jade works for Croc and wanted to help. Then he explains that he called her here because she needs to save Gotham. She is the only one that can unify the families. While she goes by the name Selina Kyle, her real last name is Calabrese, and with that name comes a power and a legacy. She can end these gang wars. No more innocents need to suffer. Back with Batman, he begins to beat down the Architect, telling him that he's just Hush's pawn. But the Architect tells Batman that it's too late, and Penny 2 reports seismic activity happening beneath the tower that they're all on. The tower begins to fall apart around them as the Architect jumps off the side, using his wings to fly away. All of Gotham begins to feel the smaller quakes, from the random streets with the random passerbys all the way down to the underground as Catwoman and Jade leave her father back in the cell. But across town, Jason Bard enters the mayor's office and he tells him, this city has been going downhill since Zero Year, and I have reason to believe that all of these recent events are connected. We need to declare martial law in the city, sir. Meanwhile, over in the old Gotham district, Cluemaster is having a meeting and he sure didn't check for any tails because Stephanie Brown, in her spoiler outfit, has snuck in behind and is recording the conversation. But she's left wondering who this bandaged man that he's talking to is, the one that's ordering her father around. Hush explains that they're gonna move forward and Cluemaster needs to present a body for his daughter now. She needs to die. But Cluemaster tells him that he already has his men working. He has a guy messing with the traffic lights, causing gridlocks. He's blowing out water lines, and they've begun rolling blackouts. So once Hush leaves, Spoiler jumps down from the rafters and she gets ready to take her motorcycle. But that's when Cluemaster comes back in and throws gas onto the floor. It fills the room and Spoiler begins to cough. We could have been Cluemaster and the Pointer. Why are you turning on me, Stephanie? A pointer is a dog, Dad, she shouts as she throws a wrench at his head and takes a motorcycle. He quickly gets up and begins to chase her on his own motorcycle, throwing various explosives at her. And eventually, they make their way to the bridge where Stephanie lets the bike get blown up so that her father thinks that he's won. And just then, the police arrive to arrest him. She waves at him. Hey! She set the whole thing up to get him arrested. Meanwhile, at the Gotham Gazette, Jason Bard is forcing them to run a story stating that the city is under attack and that the government refuses to act. He needs them to run this story now to save everyone, to make them aware of what's about to happen. Of course, this starts a panic across the town, and a young girl is about to be mugged for a jug of water. But Harper Row and Red Robin prevent it from happening. He started her training in Tokyo, and he's using this as a perfect opportunity to see if it's been working. She's been getting good. Back with Batman, he knows that he has to move fast if Hush is behind all of this, and he has Penny 2 run a scan on the cameras in Blackgate just to see who set the architect free. And that's when he sees his new friend, Jason Bard, setting the psycho free. Red Hood and Red Robin take a second to stop in and check on Alfred. They're getting close to home, Robin says, as they note that Commissioner Gordon and Alfred are now both out of commission. Let's get Batgirl and go see the boss. It's time for us all to work together again. Batman leaps into Bard's apartment to try and end this, but inside he discovers nothing more than a hologram of Hush. Why are you doing this, Tommy? I've come here to take everything away from you, everything that you've never deserved. He then blows up the apartment with Batman inside. As he struggles to get out of the explosion, Red Robin reaches out a hand. We're here. So the whole crew goes back to the Batcave to go over this whole situation and meet Juliet Pennyworth. Red Robin goes over the notes. Jim Gordon hasn't been released from prison yet, even though Jason and Barbara got enough evidence to clear him. Riots are spreading throughout Gotham. There's a nanotech virus that I can't even crack the surface of, and Alfred's been injected with so much fear toxin that it could be years until he recovers. Who is this that is attacking us, that knows us so well? And Bruce tells them, it's Hush. It's been Hush all along. He owns the police and he got the riots started. So Tim, Jason, and Barbara all tell Bruce that they'll be there for him, and they head off to stop all the riots, to try their best. They're gonna find Hush's plants that are keeping the riots going, and they're gonna take down the plants. Batman takes Julia to see her father and explain that Hush was a former friend of Bruce's, and when he lost his parents, everything went downhill, and he blamed Bruce for having what he deserved himself. So his goal has always been to take it all away from Bruce. Meanwhile, Spoiler has broken into the prison so that she can show her father what she's about to post to the internet. All of her spoilers about his plans and his evil deeds. But he smirks as her post changes from revealing everything to a bounty of $100 million on her head. Then, while the Bat family is preoccupied trying to squash the riots and the police are trying to work together to calm down the riots, Dr. Thomas Elliot, Hush's true identity, moves Alfred from the hospital and into Arkham Asylum. And while Alfred is trying to get his bearings in Arkham Asylum, Croc has finally started to make his way back to the service, and as he exits through the Arkham Asylum tunnels, he won't be having any problems with the bizarre creatures that have started taking over Arkham Asylum. Back with Jason Bard, he smirks as he sees Batman's shadow looking over him. Let's talk, Batman. But Batgirl leaps at him. Oh, you're gonna wish that I was Batman. Across Gotham, everyone is looking for something. Batman and Catwoman are looking for information on Hush and the gangs, but they have a slight falling out when Batman asks if he can help her with her issue. And Croc, he's back in Gotham tearing the place apart looking for Jade. When he escaped Bard, he left Jade with Batman, so where is she now? Once Catwoman gets back to her apartment, she finds another of Gotham's gangs awaiting to assault her and kidnap her. When Catwoman comes to, she's tied to a stripper pole in a strip club with a villain known as the Skull, ready to beat her head in with a baseball bat. And Jade is about to be forced to watch. Meanwhile, Batman has thrown a tracer onto a random thug, hoping that he will lead him back to Hush's base of operations. Back with Catwoman, she turns to Jade and she tells her not to watch as she gets ready to take a bat to the head. And that's when Croc breaks down the door looking for Jade. He swore that he would protect Jade. She is his family. Jade perks up, Mr. Wayland! And the Skull turns to see him. Holy hell, he's real. Using this distraction, Catwoman trips up Skull, putting him to the ground. Croc continues to throw thugs around, with bullets bouncing off of his thick skin. Everything is getting crazy hectic, and then one of the gang leaders decides that he's gonna take a shot at Catwoman so that she can't get away, just as Jade is trying to uncuff her. Batman arrives just as things are beginning to calm down, because the thug led him right to this building. But as he enters, he sees Croc on his knees holding Jade, and Catwoman crying. Jade took the bullet for her, and she's already dead. Croc just tells everyone to throw him in Arkham, because they took his people. They took his Jade. They took his soul. He's got nothing left. Batman jumps in, not understanding what's going on. And he's ready to attack Croc, but Catwoman kicks him aside. Leave Croc alone! So Batman grabs her by the shoulders to ask her, what happened? What did you do, Selina? Catwoman begins to cry on Batman's surprised shoulder. I could have stopped it. I could have stopped innocents from being in the crossfire. Selina, I'm here. And she steps away. No, you're not. I'm alone. Back with Batgirl, she's threatening to drop Bard off a rooftop until he finally talked, but she couldn't bring herself to actually hurt him, and he knew that, so he didn't say anything. But that's when Jason Todd arrives. And he takes the rope from her, and he drops Jason Bard to the ground. As Bard is falling to Gotham face first, he says, I'm sorry, Gotham! And that's when Batgirl catches the rope right in time at the last second. You were always better than me, Barbs, and you proved it again. Batgirl looks to Jason Todd. Maybe you should stay this time, Jason. Help the family. Save Gotham. Nah, Gotham's never been enough for me, Barb. What if there was more? She says, leaning up against him. No, he says, turning away, grabbing his hood and putting it on. Why? Because, Barb, it's like you said, I'll never be Dick Grayson. And with that, Red Hood jumped off the side of the tower and landed on Starfire's spaceship. Red Hood, Starfire, and Arsenal have many more adventures to go on their own, and we'll be touching on those later. But once again, across Gotham, Catwoman sneaks back into Blackgate Penitentiary, where she walks up to her father. She looks right at him, and she tells him, "You were right. There's only one person that can fix this, who can control the chaos, who can assert the natural order. Me, the daughter of the Lion." We begin with Jim Corrigan, the host of the Spectre, being turned into another one of Blackfire's totems, beneath Arkham Asylum. Corrigan asks him if he's even in control of it, or if there's a higher power controlling him. And down in the waters below, filled with bones and corpses, Batwing finally gets his suit to come back online and his comms finally begin to start working again. Batman can finally communicate with him. "Batman, I need your help. These tunnels are changing shape and the suit keeps going offline. You called in earlier. You said everything was fine. That wasn't me. This place is the opposite of fine. Corrigan is gone and Deacon Blackfire has come back from hell. But that doesn't make any sense. How did Hush get Blackfire involved? You tell me, boss. Where I stand, nothing makes sense anymore." So Batwing uploads a code that he found in Riddler's cell, hoping Batman and Penny 2 can crack it and see what the Riddler was trying to tell them. While Gotham itself is going crazy with all of the riots all around, traffic piling up and helicopters being dropped, Batman tells Batwing that he's on his way. Meanwhile, back at Arkham, Joker's daughter has had enough. She thought she was helping because that's what Daddy wanted, but the Joker never gave her orders like this. Someone's been messing with her. Batwing manages to get to the main room where he sees Corrigan being tortured, and he jumps at Blackfire hoping to stop this. But it's all too late. The final totem has been connected, and a beam of green energy fires into the sky for everyone at Arkham to see. And Penny 2 finally cracks the message. Arkham is just a piece of the plan. If you can read this, you are smart enough to know our foe. Blackfire has done it. He's been revived, and now has hundreds of undead creatures crawling towards him. But it's finally time for the Spectre to arrive. Massive in size, the Spectre is the weapon of God, a spirit of vengeance that cannot be called on, because he arrives when he decides to. And he is needed to seal this breach between Earth and Hell. He absorbs all of the undead creatures and the spirits, and he contains all of them. And then he's warped back into Jim Corrigan's body. Batwing jumps down into the crater that was made and grabs Corrigan. "We've got to go! Blackfire's magic is gone and the walls are falling apart." And as Batman approaches Arkham, he looks on in horror as it crumbles in around on itself, and Alfred panics from his new cell as the very ground beneath him in his new cell is cracking. Then it happens. All of Arkham Asylum falls into the sinkhole created by the Spectre's actions. Batman barely catches himself from falling in, and he can't believe that hundreds of people just fell to their deaths potentially. There are survivors though. Batwing is one of them, but he's pinned and losing power. Just as Batman gets a radio from Batwing, and he starts to try and think of a plan, the GCPD appear on the scene and they tell Batman that he's under arrest. So Batman jumps into the sinkhole using a spiral pattern with a smoke grenade to cover his escape. And he reports to Penny 2 that he needs a map. He needs to know what's going on down there. Just as Joker's daughter is another survivor, ready to take a swing at him with dynamite strapped to her body. Another of the survivors begins to move around and he finds himself pinned. Alfred realizes that he's about to die as he hallucinates. When suddenly Bane lifts the rock off him. Maybe, but not here. All of Gotham's emergency services converge on the destroyed Arkham, leaving the city to fend for itself as they try to save the supervillains that are held there, only to find themselves having to fight against the supervillains as they now try to escape. Batman quickly disarms Joker's daughter as Penny 2 reports that Clayface, Victor Zsasz, and Mr. Freeze are trying to escape. Batman ignores the fact that the police want to arrest him again, and he jumps out of the sinkhole to start fighting against the insanity of Arkham. Luckily, he has a few friends in the force who just can't seem to get clearance to shoot at the Bat. Batman makes quick work of the supervillains, with Penny 2 keeping him informed of their locations. But back down below, Bane and Alfred have teamed up to try and escape together. But Alfred wants to know, why did Bane save him? "You can still walk. And one look at you there and I knew you were ex-military. In a place like this, you are an asset, yes?" They wander down a few tunnels, but they quickly find themselves under attack from the undead that survived. Back in Gotham, Stephanie Brown, now going by the name Spoiler, is trying to get out of Gotham. Someone just placed a $100 million reward on her head, and she needs to get away from here. But Hush sees her coming, and he grabs her off of the motorcycle. Back with Batman, he's finally dropped all of the supervillains, and he finds himself against the police once again. So Penny 2 tells him that she just got a read on Hush, and he's about to shoot someone. So she sends off a shockwave from the Batplane, and Batman makes his escape. As he begins to leave, Penny 2 informs him that she just found out that her father was in Arkham when it fell, but Batman reassures her. He saw Joker's daughter, which means that there are survivors, and Alfred is one of the toughest people that he knows. Beneath Arkham, Bane and Alfred are fighting against these undead beasts and winning. This actually isn't a problem for Alfred. He was Special Air Services in the British Army. He then leads Bane to a secret wall where Batman was keeping his spare supplies underneath Arkham, and he uses the gas that is in the wall to knock out Bane. He then walks in and reports in. Penny 1 here, and well. Batman makes it just in time to rescue Spoiler, and he pins Hush's guns to the wall. The fight is pretty evenly matched, with both men beating on each other, but Batman gets some help in the form of Spoiler on a motorcycle, as she literally runs into Hush with it. He throws a grenade at them, trying to cover his escape. So Batman then heads back to Arkham Asylum, where he finally rescues Batwing before it's too late. With his plan slightly derailed, Hush meets Jason Bard, where he informs him to go. And he tells him that the attack is going to slightly change. They're gonna cut Batman off instead. Batman returns to the Batcave, where he discovers Hush's latest plan. When Hush broke in, he got the report off of the Bat computer that states the location of every Batman emergency supply in the city. All of Batman's arsenal, all undeniably Batman's weapons, now at Hush's disposal. And Bard is giving a map with the location of all of Batman's supplies to Vicky Vale for her to report on. While that's going on, Gotham has ramped up its military presence, demanding all of the residents remain indoors as the streets are now closed. And then a tank explodes with an explosive batarang. Batman moves quickly. He needs to secure all of these caches before Hush can use all of the explosives in there. And Jason Bard can't believe what just happened. He tells Hush that this has gone too far. He's now injuring his own men. But Hush tells him that there's no backing out now. Batman finds himself under attack from the GCPD at every turn, so he has Penny 2 locking down the caches while he battles against the newest recruits in the GCPD. But while he's moving through and disarming them, Wayne Enterprises is holding a meeting where they decide that they need to vote out Bruce Wayne. Wayne Enterprises is attached to these attacks on Gotham because they funded the creation of Batman's weapons through the Batman Incorporated project. And the name on all of the paperwork is Bruce Wayne. Someone's going to take a fall for this. Batman has larger problems though. Penny 2 has run into Hush at one of the caches, and while he's amused that she's the prettiest of his partners, it doesn't take long for him to shoot her and then leave her for dead as he rigs the place to explode. Batman rushes there and finds that she's managed to escape into the sewers, but she isn't doing well. Hush then activates one of the alarms, calling Bruce Wayne out. So he heads over there after Alfred tries to convince him that Penny 2 should not be involved in this anymore. And Batman and Hush finally have their meeting. Hush is ready to confront Batman. As Batman enters the cache, Hush puts on the Batman armor and jumps in, guns blazing. They battle it out. Punches, kicks, batarangs lodged into Hush's helmet. But in the end, Batman defeats Hush rather easily. He grabs him and he rips the bandages off of his face. "You're not a puzzle, a secret, or a whisper. This is who you are, Tommy," he says as he forces Hush to look at himself in the reflection. "You're not me. You never could be." Then a public announcement goes out that Wayne Enterprises has had its chief operating functions and holdings seized by the federal government. Realizing that things are going rather poorly for Wayne Enterprises, Batman reaches down to grab a note card that Hush had in his pocket and he dropped. He slowly picks up the note card and he reads it. "You have been cordially invited to partake in the devastation of Gotham City. Jim Gordon falls in precisely 2 weeks' time. The rest is up to you." Batman's eyes go wide in shock as he's also listening to the report that Wayne Enterprises is no more and dissolved. Bruce Wayne is effectively broke, and Hush wasn't the mastermind. Hush gets up on his knees. "Maybe you're right, Bruce. Maybe I'm not you. But right now, who would want to be?" Bruce Wayne meets with Lucius Fox in a random cafe in the middle of Gotham. "How bad is it, Lucius?" he asks. "I think you should cancel your next few ski trips, Mr. Wayne. All of your holdings have been seized. They even took Wayne Manor and turned it into a temporary holding facility for Arkham inmates. You are basically broke. Lucius, I need to know the status on the remnants of the R&D department in Batman Incorporated." The commissioner raided all of them. They have everything. Lucius then picks up the tab, and Bruce calls up Julia to check on things in the Batcave. She says that the concrete slabs are holding, and that none of the nut jobs should be getting into the cave. She then looks over at Hush, who's all locked up in a cell in the cave. As Lucius leaves the table, he warns Bruce of one more thing. "Let Batman know, Commissioner Bard also has me. That night, Bard is setting everything up. He has his trap prepared. It's time for the police to bring down Batman. He blows up 2 buildings that are literally just being blown up to draw out Batman. And then he looks down at Lucius Fox. You'll let me know when he enters Gotham, right? Well, across Gotham, Batman is racing into the city with Penny 2 in his ear. You know this is a trap, right, Batman? Yes, Penny 2, but sometimes you need to prove someone doesn't have all of the cards by heading into their trap. But what about someone that does have all the cards? Just then, Jason Bard interrupts their call with his own. Batman, this is the GCPD. Pull over now. But obviously, Batman ignores him. So Bard tells Lucius to lock down any systems that they can control on the Batmobile. Oh, and Batman, remember that Wayne Tech ultra-heated wire mesh that your friend claims you couldn't get into your Batmobile without damaging it? I hope he wasn't lying. And at that moment, the ultra-heated wire mesh expands in front of the Batmobile, shredding the armor in the front side of it. Shut the hell up! They then eject the core that Batman uses to protect the systems of the Batmobile, and they gain full control of the Batmobile. Are you ready to surrender, Batman? Let me think on that. That's too bad. What are you doing? I have control of your fancy Batmobile. You're like my little RC car. Hit the brakes and put on your fancy bat cuffs and we'll end this. No! Bard looks over at Lucius. Hit the bat jets. You could kill him! So Bard walks over and hits it himself, forcing Batman to launch the jet propulsion system and go over the edge of one of the tallest bridges in Gotham. Batman goes crashing through the Wayne Enterprises building, driving through it. And then he realizes he only has so many buildings that he can drive through until he'll run out of buildings and come crashing down to the streets below. So he calls up Penny 2. I need your help. They have control of the Batmobile, and the cockpit has been wielded shut by the wire mesh. But just as he's calling her, the Batmobile hits the end of the road, and it begins to plummet down into the streets. Penny 2 panics, trying to think of an answer. Anything! Alfred would have figured this out already. And then she thinks, Blue Rose. And boom! The Batmobile explodes as it hits the pavement. Bard pats himself on the back and leaves the cleanup job to the rest of the GCPD. While this was going on, Vicky Vale went on a mission of her own to discover who Bard is. What she found is that he was a normal cop with a partner, and due to a bad vigilante that was a kid, there was a bloodbath and his partner didn't survive. After that, he blamed people like Commissioner Gordon for allowing vigilantes like Batman to exist, leading to kids trying to be just like him. And that's when a doctor by the name of Thomas Elliot approached him. Vicky then called Bard to call him out and tell him that he was just too pathetic for her. But at the moment that Bard is answering the phone call, Batman sucker punches Bard. How? There was a safety protocol to get me out of the undercarriage. If it hadn't worked, I had 6 more ways out of the car. This is what you don't understand, Jason. I thought Hush had a gun to your head, but your men died. You put them there and they died. You have no regard for human life. Don't you dare! I'm doing this with the woman I love, the one that I lost to idiots trying to be you. There wasn't a single life lost for what I did. 3 stabbings, 8 shootings, and a young woman beaten to death by a mugging, all because the officers were busy trying to clean up the Batmobile. I'm sorry for your partner all of those years ago, but the deaths tonight are on you. Then Batman turns and walks away. Stop! Put your hands up, Bard says. I don't think he will, Batgirl says as she appears with both Red Robin and Red Hood. And then, with a little smoke, they all leave to go back to the Batcave, where they all welcome each other back home. Tim tells Batman that they only need to stop Bard and this will be over. But Batman informs him that Hush wasn't behind this, neither is Bard. Someone is still trying to get the nanotech virus out there, the one that infected Harper Rose's brother. And someone hired Falsario to use mind control on Gordon. And someone else was behind the destruction of Arkham Asylum, forcing them to turn Wayne Manor into a holding cell. Who was the man behind the entire plan, not just another one of the pawns? But while Batman is trying to figure it all out, so is the Riddler. And he thinks it's time that he helps Batman out just a little. Batman should have had this already. Meanwhile, across Gotham, Catwoman is starting to get used to her new job as a mob boss, but only assassins would stop trying to kill her. So she suits up and she meets up with Croc to offer him a chance for revenge. Meanwhile, the worst of Gotham's villains are forming up thanks to Scarecrow. It turns out that he isn't as dead as everyone thought he was. Since he traded his soul to hell, he feels that he should get to lead this new band of Batman villains. While it does take some convincing, he does get everyone to at least temporarily listen to him. Selina turns on the bat signal and she calls on Batman. And at first he doesn't want to hear it. She sided with the gang, her gang, and once she did that, she became his enemy. So she tells him that they don't need to end it like this, and to make it up to him, she has all of Arkham's worst just waiting for him. Batman arrives at the location and he makes short work of every single one of Arkham's inmates. They never were a true problem for him, and it was made even easier by Selina's plan. You see, she arranged for Poison Ivy and Croc to work against Scarecrow, Freeze, Bane, and Clayface, then informed Batman of their location so that he could capture them all because she wanted to remove the freaks so that she could place her own individuals into their places. In her own words, it's time for Gotham to go back to its rightful masters. Meanwhile, across Gotham at Blackgate Gen Pop, Jim Gordon is getting a visitor. Jason Bard is there explaining the whole situation to him, that he was convinced to go along, and because of him, Gotham has become a war zone. Then because of him, Batman and his allies are hiding out instead of saving Gotham. He wants to fix this. He wants to make it right. But no one will listen to him any longer. He has no allies of his own. And Gordon tells him that he did the right thing by coming to him. Now the first thing that they need to do to fix this is get Gordon out of Blackgate, but do it by the book. Our villains aren't gone yet though. They're being hauled off to Blackgate, and the SWAT van carrying them takes a detour. As the back door opens, the guards inside find themselves being shot up by other SWAT guards. They are then escorted to a room where Cluemaster and his D-list supervillains are also being escorted, and Catwoman has been invited by invitation. Inside, a voice comes over a loudspeaker and it explains that they are now in a room with all of Bruce Wayne's seized Batman weapons and his money, and they're allowed to take it as long as they go to town on Gotham. While this is happening, Batman has gone to Riddler's location, high in the mountains. The Riddler left a clue all the way back in Arkham that he knows who is behind all of this, and Batman needs to know. So he accomplishes a simple riddle, and then he begins to throw Riddler around. He's exhausted, mentally and physically, and half mad as the Riddler puts it. Batman doesn't have time for games anymore. What's going on? You claim you know who is behind this? Now tell me, Riddler. But just then, as Batman is getting ready to bring the Riddler back to Gotham, explosions go off around them, creating an avalanche. The two men quickly become buried in the snow, but Batman knew what to do, and he's currently encased in the snow. He calls up Penny 2 to tell her what happened, but that he's a little preoccupied trying to get out. He'll be fine, but this is gonna take some time. While this is going on, all of the criminals are loading up on Batman's toys and his money, while Catwoman tells them that this isn't her style. She's out. She tells the punks here that this is pointless. She isn't going to listen to a mystery voice, and while they've been waiting for a payday like this, she's been making her own. She made her own life. She edged her way out of the Gotham Underground. And that's when the crooks decide Catwoman isn't with them. She's against them, and Firefly blows up her car. Back with Batman in the snow, he finally drags himself out and he grabs the Riddler. I'm taking you back to Gotham. But the Riddler pleads to not go back. We'll all die there, he says. So Batman asks him, who has you so scared? Don't be silly. I'm not scared. I'm being logical. When suddenly the ground beneath them gives way and both men fall down the cliff and into more snow. At the bottom, the Riddler gets up and he tries to run again, but Batman tells him, stop running! And that's when the Batjet rises up from the snow, which was conveniently right beneath the Riddler. We're going back to Gotham, Riddler. You'll never make me talk. I only led you here to make you think for yourself. Catwoman, of course, walks out of the warehouse unscathed. She knew to jump away, and she leaves the building telling Croc, one of her henchmen, this is gonna be bad. Meanwhile, Red Robin and Harper Row are hard at work on the location of the nanotech virus. Tim has been working on it since the beginning of this insanity, and he hasn't gotten any closer to figuring it out. It's a virus that's taking over the children of Gotham, and Harper Row's brother Cullen is included in this mass. It takes over their bodies and it turns them into drones for the virus, kinda like zombies. Well, Tim and Harper have tracked it down to a warehouse, where the droned people are building something. Spoiler, on the other hand, is still battling against everyone trying to take her in for her bounty. But as she begins to fight this new individual telling him that she's already dropped 6 lowlifes, he explains that he was hired to protect her, not take her in for the bounty, and he knocks her unconscious. Realizing that the nanotech virus situation is much worse than he originally thought, Tim calls for help from Red Hood, aka Jason Todd, and Batgirl. You want me to shoot a bunch of kids? Jason asks. No, what? That's not at all what I said, Tim tells him. Well, that's how it sounded to me, Jason says. Typical, Batgirl says, shrugging off Jason's comment. Harper corrects Jason though. We need you guys to clear out the nanotech zombies so that we can find the big boss man and shut this down. Where's Batman? Batgirl asks. He's dealing with the Riddler, and I trust Harper, Tim tells her. Fine, let me get my rubber bullets, Jason says, all sad. Tim and Batgirl jump in through the upper levels while Jason breaks down the front doors and he makes a mess, like he was supposed to. They quickly see that the nanotech zombies have been building a relay tower of sorts. Jason tries his best not to harm the kids while Batgirl is keeping things busy so Tim can jump up to the catwalk and discover the mastermind behind all of this, the Mad Hatter. You're the one behind all of this crazy tech, Tim exclaims. No, not behind. Oh, no, no, no. On top, where hats go. Gotham needs a new look, and I'm just the Hatter to give it to them. And leave it to you to find the creepiest way possible, Jason yells out. Dr. Falsario had a knockoff of your technology. We thought he stole your inventions, Tim tells him. You are correct, little bird. That horrible man only saw money in my work. But I do what I do to embrace the outcast, the sad, the lonely. The Hatter then hits a switch and things begin to get much worse inside of the warehouse because he just took control of Jason. Batgirl realizes what's going on, that they are losing, and she yells at Tim to get out of the warehouse and save her and Jason, as she finds herself being turned into a nanotech zombie as well. But he can't get away fast enough, as the Hatter takes control of Tim as well, leaving Harper Row outside the building all by herself. She quickly escapes the area and goes back to her apartment. Harper is tired of being pushed to the side by all of these heroes. This is her brother, and she will help him. So she finally suits up as the newest superhero in Gotham, Bluebird. The Mad Hatter begins to march on Gotham with his nanotech zombie army in tow. But meanwhile, Spoiler wakes up with her outfit off in a nice and comfy bed, and her mother is standing in the doorway. This isn't good because her father is the Clue Master and her mother has been in on the plot to kill her this whole time. At least, that's what Stephanie thought. But as her mother tells her, she had no idea how far her father had gone, and if she did, she would have gotten Stephanie out of there sooner. Harper Row is now going by her superhero named Bluebird as she waits for the Mad Hatter to take most of his army out of the building. She then slips in to finish what Tim started. But it didn't take her long to find that there are still some nanotech zombies inside, and they definitely alerted the Hatter to her presence. He comes back in a hurry and begins to send zombies in to grab her, using Tim, Jason, and Batgirl to hold her down. He will infect her with the nanotech virus. But Bluebird is a tech girl, and she sees how he's controlling everything. It's all in the hat. So she takes a free moment to kick it off his head. Then using a gadget in her glove, she blows up everyone that's trying to hold her down, and she picks the hat up off the ground. There's a new Hatter in town. She walks over, overloading the relay and destroying all of the nanotech virus, finally. The Hatter looks on in shock as his entire plan was foiled by the new girl on the block. Harper then runs over to her brother and embraces him because it's finally over. And that's when Batman finally arrives to grab the Hatter and demand to know, "Why are you here, Hatter?" But the Hatter explains, he was invited like everyone else. He has no idea who did it. He only got the instructions on a card to make Gotham hate Batman. Frustrated as always, Batman explains that he was following some of the nanotech teenagers, which is how he found this place. And he asks Tim how he found it. Tim points to Bluebird. Her. We're gonna need to talk about that. And then Batman leaves. Meanwhile, back with Stephanie. She walks out to the kitchen to find that her mother is tied to a chair, and Catwoman is standing there. My, you are a difficult person to find. Lucky for me, I like a challenge. Well, as it turns out, Catwoman was only looking for her, not for the bounty on her head, but for the information that warranted such a large bounty. She also knew that Batman would be coming for this girl eventually for some reason, so Catwoman leaves the underworld to think that Spoiler is here with her in her casino, while Batman brings Spoiler back to a safe house to be guarded by Bluebird and her brother Cullen. Bluebird agreed on the condition that Batman will train her for real, all the karate chops and eye-poking stuff. The weird part is though, Spoiler still wouldn't reveal what she knows to everyone, because she is seemingly afraid of Batman, and she wouldn't say why. So after a night of explaining the situation to Bluebird, she finally does reveal what she knows, what everyone has been hunting her down for. She knows who's been handing the money to her father, the man behind all of this. She saw Bruce Wayne, the man who funds Batman. Spoiler then gets up and begins to leave. With Bruce Wayne funding all of these Bat people, she isn't going to stay here. She's gonna stop him. But Bluebird tells her that she isn't leaving, and if she tries, she'll stun her. Spoiler won't be stopped from leaving, and they begin to fight it out. Meanwhile, the GCPD have finally gotten the name of the person who was doing the entire Arkham Asylum, dark arts, and then collapsing of the entire facility, Dr. Milo. Batman has his agents track down any more information on Dr. Milo, and they catch him just in time as he's attempting to leave Gotham through the airport. He is chased through the airport by the security until he flies out onto the runway where the Batjet hovers overhead and demands that he surrender or be neutralized. He panics and screams, "I surrender!" But the Batjet then shoots all of the drugs that he has in his pockets, and Batman jumps down to grab the man by the throat and demand to know what he did to Arkham. What did he do to the inmates? He explains that he did what the book said. It entwined magic and science, and it worked. It was a gift to him. So Batman demands to know, who gave it to you? And Dr. Milo explains. It was attached to the card he received. Then the spirits of the deceased seemingly rise from the ground and they surround Batman. "Batman, your time has come," they exclaim. Dr. Milo holds his hands over his eyes. "Who are you? I didn't summon you! I can't look!" Batman looks in horror as the spirits around him are that of his mother and father, telling him that he couldn't help them, their poor baby. They tell him that he has desecrated their memory with his war on crime. While this is going on, the spirits are also crawling all over Dr. Milo, demanding to know why he gave them to Joker's daughter. She killed all of them. Then one of the spirits, which turns out to be a doctor of Arkham, appears and tells the others to leave Batman alone. They are here to get Dr. Milo. He made them into this. But as Batman runs over to Milo to save him from a heart attack, the GCPD arrive just in time to demand that Batman puts his hands over his head. Batman activates a flashbang off his belt and he disappears into the night with Dr. Milo. As they take off into the night, Batman calls up Jin Corrigan, again, the Spectre, and he explains that all of this Arkham mess was because of Dr. Milo using a book, and he wants Corrigan to look at it. So Corrigan, Batwing, and Batman all get together in a cemetery that's considered hollow ground, just in case Corrigan needs it. Corrigan then finds out that Dr. Milo opened up a trapdoor of magic, one tailor-made to allow Blackfire out, tailor-made to make a hole into hell, and tailor-made to allow him to do all of these horrendous acts. But he went too far, and it eventually broke him mentally. Back with Spoiler and Bluebird, they have slightly resolved their differences. Spoiler is sitting on the bed telling Bluebird that she just can't trust her. She can't trust anyone. So Bluebird decides that she's going to ask Batman if they can just get Spoiler out of Gotham, and she sets up an automatic stun gun on Spoiler. If she moves, she'll be knocked out for quite a while. As Bluebird leaves, Spoiler can only say, well, damn. Back with Batman in the Batcave, he begins to look through who bought up all of Wayne Enterprises' companies and structured them in such a way that it looked like a signature. He then realizes who is devious enough and rich enough to snag up all of Wayne Enterprises semi-legally and gets that far unseen only to sign it. Who can bring the city to its knees? Who has the influence over all of these people in all these different types of walks of life? Ra's al Ghul. Batman arrives in Ra's al Ghul's current hideout, Karachi, only to be welcomed by one of Raz's tricks, a mist that is all around him. "Ra's, where are you?" Batman yells out. "I believe the answer isn't where. The question is when. Look around you, detective. You see no walls or floors. I am nowhere, you are nowhere. We are not in a place. We are in the future, your future. What do you see in your future, Batman? Do you become a remnant of a long dark era? Do you find a successor, maybe a student, or something worthy by blood? I present to you the question, Batman. Is Batman eternal?" But Batman isn't tricked, and he reaches through the mist to knock the teeth out of Ebenezer Dark, one of Raz's lackeys. What's Raz playing at? I don't know. I do what he says and he lets me live, not unlike your relationship with him. Raz explains that this conspiracy is against the Bat, and it is not Ra's al Ghul's doing. He then opens up the doors in the back of the room, showing himself in a hospital bed on life support. He has been struggling with his recovery ever since Batman threw him into a ravine. Batman then takes his hand and slams it against the wall. "No! There's no one else. It has to be you. Look in your heart. You know it isn't true, detective. No. Return and figure this out. Evolve, and then come ready to face me again." Juliet Pennyworth heads off into the city to answer the bat signal wearing a bat mask of her own. Selina, aka Catwoman, has called for Batman. She has shipping manifests coming through her gang, insane stuff being ordered by Gotham's worst. Someone gave them a blank check and they went crazy with it, and they are insane. There's about to be a battle between all of them to see who can claim Gotham first, and they're extremely competitive. Penny 2 goes back to the Batcave where she phones into Batman. A new piece of the Shadow conspiracy against you is in play. A number of your villains are setting up, but Batman has a bit of a flight ahead of him as he's returning from Ra's al Ghul's hideout. So Penny 2 has dialed up the rest of the Bat family to begin looking. Batwing is handling Scarecrow and his Crow drones. Red Robin is handling Clayface in his attempt to become a star again. Bluebird is taking care of Mr. Freeze and his creepy frozen family in life. Batgirl is fighting against Joker's daughter, and Red Hood battles it out with Bane and his super armor. With the family preoccupied by each of Batman's villains, the power suddenly goes off in the Batcave, and Hush walks free without the electronic locks, and he ties a sick Alfred to a chair. He does this so that Alfred can watch his daughter being launched into the sky and away from the Batcave. She turns back to see Gotham is burning from the harbor. And just at that moment, Batman's Batplane automatically shuts down, as Hush now has control over the computer, and he's turned it off. Batman steers for an airfield, where he has another crash landing. While this is going on, Jason Bard is finally doing the right thing by going to the mayor and demanding Jim Gordon's release. He explains that Gordon was framed and he has evidence to prove it, but the mayor refuses to listen and begins to go to the helipad where he intends to get out of Gotham. Bard stops him. If you want to flee, fine, but you aren't going to do it before signing this release form. But over at Blackgate, Gordon has much worse things to worry about as someone has knocked out all of the guards. They just released all of the prisoners of Blackgate. To make matters much worse for the Bat family, Hush stands in the center of the Batcave in awe at the power that he now has at his disposal. So while the Bat family is trying to battle their villains, he begins to tinker with the remote controls in their suits, making their battles even worse and cutting off all communications. But Julia isn't out of this fight yet as she drags herself to the harbor. And Batman, of course, didn't die in the plane crash, as he drags himself from the wreckage and begins to walk to the nearby Air Force airfield. He then steals a jet and spray paints IOU on the ground with a bat signal. He'll be getting back to Gotham soon enough. Over at Blackgate, the GCPD and Jason Bard are trying to get Gordon out, only to find that the whole facility is overrun by the inmates. But back at the Batcave, Alfred is finally done being sick, as he gets out of the cell that Hush has put him in, and he cracks Hush over the head. We're done here, Tommy. With Alfred at the Bat computer controls again, the Bat family finally has their support again. But they also now have Batman there, as he's finally gotten back to the city. He throws an entire jet at Bane, saving Red Hood, and then reports over the radio that he's coming to end this. Back at Blackgate, Penguin and Croc use this chance to escape from the prison, but Bard does get Gordon out finally, which was just the time that Batman needed to arrive where Batwing was battling Scarecrow, and Batman comes riding in on the Crow drones. He quickly removes the Scarecrow threat. He then goes to Bluebird where he electrocutes Mr. Freeze and he disables him. Then using Victor Freeze's freeze gun, he freezes Clayface and saves Red Robin. They then all head over to help Batgirl with Joker's daughter, but she's already beat up Joker's daughter. "You guys didn't seriously think that I would need help with this, did you?" she asks. And Tim tells her, "Show off." But while Batman is getting the family back together, Firefly has lit most of Gotham on fire. Batman cannot believe how far this has gone, and he punches the window. And that's when he turns back on his Cal communicator, and Julia explains that he received an invitation to the best seat in the house. If he's willing to meet up with the Bat Signal, he can see Gotham fall and see his failure. With no sleep for 36 hours and exhaustion setting in, Batman goes to Signal Tower to end this, while the Bat family goes out to rescue people in the fires. Batman arrives at the tower, and he demands to know who was behind all of this. Who did this? The culprit launched stun lines at him, shocking him and forcing him down to his knees. And out steps Clue Master. You never did consider all the options. All you needed to do was follow the clues, Batman. Clue Master straps Batman to the Bat Signal and cuts the Bat Signal off of his chest with a razor. He then takes off Batman's shirt and he asks him, "Do you even remember my name after you stopped me all of those years ago?" "Arthur Brown, the Clue Master, a second-rate Riddler knockoff." "Shut up! The Riddler never got you this far, did he?" And then the Clue Master removes Batman's mask. "Ha! No wonder you have such an ego. Bruce Wayne is Batman? Your name is all over this city." "It doesn't matter now. Your allies have been slaughtered. Your city is burning. I have taken everything from you, piece by piece." And then he throws the cape and cowl off the side of the building. "We talk, you know, those who don't make your A-list. We have meetups and poker nights. I remember during one of Joker's big schemes, I made a joke. What if we struck right then when Batman was focused on one of the real baddies? We laughed about it, but I knew I was right. We could do anything while you were focused on one of the big baddies' puzzles. The reason no one does is we think that you're bigger than us. But you're not, are you? You're just a man. See, I created the illusion of a coordinated attack. So many people hate you that they came stumbling out of the woodwork to be involved. Alls I needed was some offhand hatter tech to get Gordon to pull the trigger, and it threw you off right from the start. Then I sent out invitations to the kind of people that would see this as an opportunity. It didn't matter what they did, big or small. They just needed to do something, and they certainly each took a different path. It made you look for someone behind everything, look for the big bad, and you were so focused on finding somebody worthy of a plot like this that you ignored the little stuff, the way the city was changing, the way we were preparing for the total chaos to take hold. You bought into your own legend, your own story. You thought there had to be someone worthy of you. But this whole time, Batman has been picking the locks on his own wrist, and he throws a left hook at the Clue Master. Meanwhile, Back with Gordon and Bard, they're finally putting everything together. Riot shields, body armor, CCTV cameras, and an entire fleet of armored vehicles. They are going to take back Gotham. Batman begins to hit the Clue Master over and over, and then he throws him headfirst into a wall with the chains. Bruce, this is really the end. I've had my fun, but I'm not going to play this game with you anymore. Is that so? You can stop with the ridiculous voice, Bruce. You can't even stand up. And the Clue Master is right as he hits Bruce across the face, dropping him. Then he pulls out a gun. I'm gonna shoot you. And that's when the Clue Master has his throat slit by an unknown assailant. No! Not according to plan! Our unknown person begins to approach Batman. Your plan may be, Clue Master, but I've always had a plan of my own. Hello, brother. Are you ready to end this? And we see that Lincoln Marsh has his own plans that he wants to enact. It turns out that when Clue Master wanted to start this plan, he arrived at the Harbor House on the Night of the Owls. The Night of the Owls is the night that Bruce Wayne's supposed brother killed the Court of the Owls and tried to take Gotham. Clue Master arrived at the Harbor House wanting money, resources, and power, and with it, he could do anything. But he was defeated when he saw the Court of the Owls was dead. But one man was still around that night. Lincoln Marsh, also going by the name Thomas Wayne Jr., and he funded Clue Master's entire operation. Lincoln Marsh now stands in front of Bruce Wayne, ready to bring his own plans to fruition. It really is sad. He actually was smarter than anyone gave him credit for. Not smart enough, mind you, but smart. He had this excellent plan relying on the fact that he was literally the last person you'd expect to put it together. But that's it. He was a nobody. He couldn't bring this to its end. Lincoln Marsh then lowers his mask, and using his jetpack, he grabs Bruce and he launches him into the sky. You see, brother, I already know that I'm a nobody. I come without a code name and without some colorful entourage. I'm wholly nothing, and you made me that, and I will return the favor. But Batman isn't done yet. He takes a shard of glass out of his own back, and he shoves it into the jetpack. No, I can't control you, bastard. And they both land into the nearby building. Meanwhile, across Gotham, the entire Bat family is saving the city. Batwing, Red Robin, Batgirl, and Red Hood, all trying to save people. But Red Hood is about to meet his end as the building around him is crumbling, and Batgirl is trying to save him. But that's not all. Gordon, the GCPD, and even Catwoman and Croc are all coming up with plans to save Gotham. This has to end now. Brucey, Lincoln Marsh calls out. Your brother wants to come out and play. You aren't my brother, Lincoln. Bruce yells back as he takes the tattered remains of his costume and he makes a makeshift mask before grabbing a street sign and running in to finish this off. But Lincoln Marsh breaks the street sign and then opens fire on Batman. Batman dodges and grabs a car door, slamming it into Lincoln Marsh, telling him to shut up! But Batman is defeated. He's too tired, too exhausted, too injured. And Lincoln Marsh knows it as he grabs Batman by the throat. It's over, Bruce. You and I both know that I've won, and then I will slink back into the shadows with no one knowing what truly happened. Without your fortune, without your company, the names Batman and Wayne will disappear from the city, and I will have won. You will be a footnote, a strange deviation tied into these past few troubled years. But Batman will be done forever. But a voice comes over the loudspeaker with the bat signal on the television screens. Gotham City, I need you to listen. This is the former Commissioner Gordon, Jim Gordon, broadcasting on every street corner in Gotham. I know you're frightened right now, more frightened than you have ever been. Maybe that fear has pushed you to do things that you wouldn't normally do. Maybe it's just pushed you to hide away in some dark corner. But Gotham City is our city. And when hell is unleashed, we don't run and hide. It needs a city. It needs all of us. And that's when Talon arrives and saves Red Hood and Batgirl from a crumbling building. Talon? What the? Red Hood says. The lady in the cave. She put out a call to everyone. And that's when we see the extended family is arriving. Batwoman, Black Canary, and even Katana. Back with Batman and Lincoln Marsh, our villain is staring in disbelief. This can't be happening. And that's when Batman uses this opportunity to headbutt him, breaking his mask off. Then a bucket is thrown at him, throwing him off balance. Who the? It was actually Spoiler as she leaps in, punching him. Don't you recognize me? I'm Batman, she shouts. Looking up, Lincoln Marsh sees that he's defeated, as behind Batman stands everyone now. Everyone in the family. You're not very invisible now, are you, Lincoln? Batman says as Commissioner Gordon helps Batman back up. Lincoln Marsh vanishes into the tunnels below, and our story finally comes to a close. So what happened to everyone after this? Well, Jason Bard went right to Vicky Vale, and he offered to tell her everything that happened. She warned him that he'll be disgraced and never able to work for the GCPD again. But he doesn't mind. Gotham's known for hiring ex-police officers, aren't they? Catwoman and Croc, well, they continue to run their criminal organization. And while Batman isn't happy about that, because Catwoman has a lot to answer for, he'll deal with that on a later date. Jim Corrigan went back to his unit in the police, which is covered by another book, Gotham by Midnight, and he offered a spot on the team to Batwing before he went off on his own again. Jim Gordon and his daughter, Barbara Gordon, well, they finally got to have a quiet night at home. Jason, he was done at Gotham, and he had some friends waiting for him. He almost left Barbara a message so that they can pursue a possible relationship, but he changed his mind, and he told Roy Harper to come pick him up. Stephanie went to go stay with Harper and Cullen after all of this, and she seemingly trusts Red Robin, who came to check up on them. As she finally had her first official meeting with Red Robin, they shook hands, and then they looked into each other's eyes, because they saw something that might happen someday. Lincoln Marsh didn't get away. He did flee into the tunnels, but the Court of the Owls, they weren't gone, and they found their wandering talent. They sealed him up and they told him, "We might have a use for you again in a decade or two." And with everything finally done, the city went back to its beautiful black and blue sky, and Jim Gordon became commissioner again. Batman, who already fixed the Wayne Enterprises situation, getting back his money and resources, arrived at the Bat Signal, and Gordon told him about a plan the Scarecrow has enacted, something that is going to need Batman to stop it. It looks like the job for the Dark Knight never ends. And there you have it, today's full story. I hope you guys enjoyed, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell right here on this channel, as it will only ever be receiving full stories from the other channel. And if you want to see the videos as they come out,
closer.
Bleh, bleh.
I can't cast that yet. I'm out of range. out of range. That spell isn't ready yet.
Fucking knuckle duster thrash, baby. It's a lot of damage.
X-Force is a team created by Wolverine to go out and do things that the X-Men are not allowed to do. We've covered this entire story, Wolverine and Deadpool on the X-Force team traveling through time a long time ago, but that was broken up into multiple episodes. It's time for our full story Mondays, massive Mondays, storyline of us taking our old videos, which does contain some of our old editing styles and voice recording methods, and put them together to bring you the full X-Force storyline. I hope you guys enjoy, because this is some of my favorite X-Men stuff right here.
Deadpool is standing on the head of a gargoyle looking down. Why did the nickel jump off the building but the dime didn't? Then he leaps off into the green pool beneath him. Dime had more sense. He lands on a platform and he leaps over the green liquid until he walks into an evil looking room and he looks around. Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. Omnia's fortress of impending doom inspires dread, sets the tone! Then he fires a grappling line onto the structure and he pulls himself up. What manner of evil lies within the Citadel de Cripsville, ponders our hero. He pulls himself up and he looks down at a ritual going on. Individuals surrounding a sarcophagus. A woman is then sacrificed in front of his eyes willingly, and the coffin begins to open out. It's him, no doubt, Deadpool says. But before he can act, he hears something behind him, and a giant beast leaps in at him with an axe. And that's when Psylocke wakes up with a gasp. Angel wakes up next to her, asking if that was a bad dream. The dream that she just had was of her killing Angel because he lost himself to the Dark Angel inside. Dark Angel is deep inside of Warren, and Psylocke is the one keeping it in check. If she were to remove the hold that she has on his mind and Dark Angel, it would fracture his mind. It would make him broken. But Angel is okay with that. He feels that there are times where Archangel's brand of justice may be needed, and he thanks Betsy for her help in keeping Archangel at bay. For everything else, he has X-Force to handle it. But after they talk about their relationship for a minute, a call goes off. And Warren knows only one person that has that line. And if he's not dialing him drunk, it may be an emergency. Meanwhile, over in London, Fantomex is on a job trying to acquire goods that aren't exactly his when Wolverine interrupts the job to make him aware that they have a secret meeting to get to. Wolverine, Psylocke, Angel, and Fantomex all load up into Fantomex's ship and they get on with their mission. The call was from Deadpool, and it was a red alert. He needed help and the target was something huge. The ship reports that they have arrived and the team gets to work jumping past the green liquids that Deadpool was near before. Wolverine then begins tracking Deadpool's scent and he follows it to a big ugly statue sitting off on its own and he pops his claws and he leaps in. Wolverine is known for his tracking skills, so when he decides to attack a statue, there's a reason. And the statue responds by swinging at him. Wolverine begins to cut into it, and then it digs its axe into his shoulder, infecting him with something, possessing him. He turns and he sees Angel. Bloodshed, horror, gore, lost! And he leaps at Angel with his claws ready. Murder, fire, wrath! Psylocke jumps onto the beast's back and begins to dig her weapons into its brain, patching into it psychically. Then there's a feedback as she hits the ground telling everyone, fire is the only solution! Fantomex luckily can make people see what he wants them to see. Misdirection, he calls it. And he points at the beast and he tells him, the girl is the one. The beast stops, grunts, and it seemingly explodes. And when Psylocke asks what happened, Fantomex tells her that he made the beast think that he was in love with Psylocke. And it didn't agree with him. She then patches into Wolverine's mind, fixing his rage, and the team presses forward. They find Deadpool strapped to a table and they let him go. Deadpool leads the way out of the building, and as he jumps in to attack some of the guards, he asks the most important question. How do you kill a circus? Go for the jugular! And he cuts the guards' throats. They all leap out the window and onto Fantomex's ship before escaping. But as they leave, Wolverine asks Warren, how long has he known about Apocalypse's return? Warren explains that he had Deadpool hunting down leads for years, all for this moment, the moment that he returned, and he intends to be the one to kill him, by any means. The team regroups and they go through a little research until they discover that Apocalypse's followers and his horsemen have brought him to the moon for training. They suit up and they ride Fantomex's ship into space, but as they get closer, war opens up by smashing the front of their ship. They crash in hard into the structure on the moon, and war appears before them, smashing into the ship even further. The ship is actually Eva, and it's linked mentally to Fantomex. He can hear her screaming out in pain until she's gone. As Deadpool runs back in to mess with War, the group looks up to see another of the horsemen tapping on his drum. Rat-tat-tat-tat! And Angel takes to the skies, screaming that he's going after him. But as he gets closer, he's dropped as soon as he gets close in severe pain, as this horseman is famine. Meanwhile, Deadpool is dodging War's attacks, singing, War! Good God, y'all! What is it good for? Absolutely nothing! And he tries to open fire, but War grabs him and throws him across the moon. Deadpool bounces across it, stating, ouch, crap, damn, ass, damn, crap. And he lands in front of a woman with an umbrella. Hello, pretty moon lady. He stands up with his sword ready and she opens up her mouth, revealing hundreds upon hundreds of insects. Back with War, Wolverine has a plan that involves using the low gravity, and he picks up War and he throws him into the sky so Phantomex can throw a grenade at him. They seemingly have killed War, but that's when they realize they didn't do crap, because a guy in a magic carpet is carrying War back in. He lands next to them, striking them with the Black Death, Pox, and Consumption, and they all hit the ground as all 4 of the horsemen assemble in front of X-Force. Wolverine isn't done yet though. He gets up fighting against the magic carpet guy, only to discover that this guy can transmit disease through metal. So, with Wolverine as close as he is, he's now dealing with every disease within the world in his body. Phantomex distracts the pretty bug moon lady with a misdirection, while Deadpool pulls himself to Warren and pops a Deadpool tent, bringing Warren inside. Warren is struck down with full famine and he's wasting away, so Deadpool reaches into his belto pouches, dropping Pop Rocks and soda into Warren's mouth, telling him, "You just need some carbs, buddy," but it isn't enough. Meanwhile, Wolverine is pushing through
for the Alliance.
Through every disease known to mankind to get closer and closer to the Horseman. And War brings Psylocke back to his chambers because this is the same guy that exploded before, and he's still in love with her from Phantom X's last misdirection. The Horseman finally gets his hands on Wolverine, and he looks at him as he's wasting away until there is nothing left of Wolverine. And that's when Phantom X's misdirection fades away, and the Horseman realizes that he just struck down the Bug Moon Lady with every disease killing her. While this was going on, Phantom X got Wolverine out of there. So Logan asks him, "Where are we at? Are we winning?" And Phantom X informs him, "Not even close." Logan and Phantom X sneak into the building and they go deeper and deeper, while Deadpool is still stuffing Warren full of soda and pop rocks. But Psylocke, she managed to use War being in love with her to get away, and she walks into Apocalypse's room. She will end this. Warren is a child. Deadpool decides that Warren elf, but she's being in love with her to get away, and she walks into Apocalypse's room. She will end this herself, but she sees what Apocalypse is. He was reborn as a child. Deadpool decides that Warren needs even more protein if he's gonna pull through this, so he begins to cut off pieces of his own arm to feed to Warren. Warren asks him where he got it from, but Deadpool decides he probably shouldn't tell him. Wolverine and Phantom X jump in, cutting and shooting up as many of the guards as they can as they ride the bodies of the guards down into the chambers of the evil facility. The Horsemen then all walk out and bombard both Wolverine and Phantom X with everything, killing them. Or did they? As Phantom X has once again misdirected them. Eventually, Wolverine, Phantom, Deadpool, and Warren all recover enough to get into the core chamber where Apocalypse is. And inside, they find Psylocke standing in front of a child. She raises her blade to her teammates, informing them that they will not touch a hair on this child's head. Wolverine steps forward. "Okay, Bets, ease down." And Angel tells her, "Man or child, we cannot allow him to live. He isn't a child. He is a bloodthirsty monster." Psylocke stops him there. "No, Warren, he is a child, a mutant child. And if we kill this boy for what he might do, then what does that make us? Heroes who stopped the Armageddon. How can you be certain of that?" Angel and Psylocke begin to go to blows, and he shouts, "Logan, do it!" So Wolverine pops his claws at the child crying, and even Deadpool is stunned. What do they do? This is a child, and Wolverine can't do it. Betsy's right, Warren. We can't do this. So Warren gets up swinging at both of them, and he walks to the child himself. The child begs, "I won't do anything wrong. I swear, I swear." But Warren is determined, and gritting his teeth, he tells him, "You can't help yourself. You are Apocalypse." And then he falls to his knees. Can't do it." Psylocke runs to his side. "We understand, Warren." And then, blam! A gunshot goes off and everyone looks stunned as Phantom X took the shot and he killed the child with a headshot. He walks over and he closes the boy's eyes, and everyone silently loads up back into his ship and they begin to fly home. No one can believe what just happened. They killed the child. They killed him in cold blood for crimes that he may commit. Who is Phantom X? Well, he was born in the world, and using its unusual technology, he was brought into adulthood within a month of real-world time. The world is a product of the Weapon Plus program, and it is a high-tech, self-contained research facility, and after Wolverine, Phantom X, and Captain Marvel destroyed it, it came into Phantom X's possession, and he controls the entire facility. His home. But while he was gone on his last adventure, something happened to it. It changed into something else, and Phantom X began trying everything in his power to purge out the quark that had been placed into his system. He would kill the person who had been put in there, and that person would also be attempting to kill him. He then crawled out of the shrunken facility and left it contained. Meanwhile, in Cavern X, the home of the Uncanny X-Force, Deadpool calls a meeting because he wants to talk. He wants to talk about what happened. They killed a kid. Wolverine is the first to stop him. "You called us in for therapy?" "Yeah, I don't know, Logan. This isn't what I signed up for." "Wrong. This is exactly what you signed up for. To the letter. We took on something terrible for the good of the entire world." "How can you say that? We walked into a room and we saw that he was a kid. We all agreed it would be wrong to kill him. We all agreed on killing Apocalypse. I don't lose sleep over it. We did the right thing." And Psylocke stops him. "Who are you trying to convince, Logan?" Everyone storms off, each with their own opinions as to what happened and how to handle it. And while this was going on, Phantom X went back to his home with the woman that he called Mother. He explained where he had been, doing deeds for the greater good, and as he convinces her that everything will be okay, The wall blows up and in walks a Deathlock. He opens fire on Fantomex as he tries to save his mother. But then another Deathlock walks in, one that looks like Elektra. Two more Deathlocks walk in, Captain America and the Thing, and Fantomex knows what this is. They're after the world. He begins jumping around them, trying to take out two of the greatest superheroes in the Marvel Universe. But since they are now slower cyborgs, he's able to get one over on them. Deathlock Captain America then slips away and grabs the world, while Fantomex is distracted by Deathlock Spider-Man as Spider-Man is holding his mother. "Don't hurt her," he yells out to him. And then Deathlock Spider-Man snaps her neck. Fantomex jumps in, grabbing him, and he flings him into Deathlock Captain America. They both go through a wall, and Fantomex tells Eve, his computer system, to find Wolverine and get X-Force on this. He then jumps down to fight them even further, only to see Deathlock Hawkeye waiting for him. With a single arrow, he destroys Fantomex's house, seemingly killing him, and then all of the Deathlocks leave with the world in their possession. Fantomex managed to get to his ship though, and he got away just as everything exploded. And now, he's bouncing out in the snow. He crawls out of his ship and he looks up to see another Deathlock standing in front of him. But this one is the actual Deathlock from his timeline. That's when Deathlock Spider-Man jumps back in. As Fantomex's ship flew away, he whipped onto it, and now he wants to fight. But he's much slower as a cyborg, and Fantomex gets him to the ground and points a gun at Spider-Man's head. "We don't deserve to die like this. We fought for what was right," Deathlock Spider-Man tells him. "I believe you." And he shoots Spider-Man in the head. The original Deathlock walks over telling Fantomex, "Captain America has the world. We need to stop it." The cyborgs begin running towards Father as they are calling him, telling him that they have the world, they will save him. And Fantomex shows up out of nowhere, opening fire on them. "You had the world." With Fantomex's bullets and Deathlock's help, they manage to take the world back from the cyborgs. Fantomex looks down at Captain America's shield that he acquired during the fight, and he asks Deathlock if he'll be keeping it, because he could use it for a new museum that he has to build. That's when one of Fanto's ships lands, and he applauds. "Thank you all for coming so late, but we don't really need you now." The door opens up and out steps the Deathlock versions of Angel, Wolverine, Deadpool, and Psylocke. "These are not my friends," Fanto says as he dodges more bullets, and he makes a break for it. He and Deathlock make it to a cliff, and Deathlock asks him, "Can you fly?" "No, me either." And they jump off the side of the cliff. Fanto grabs onto Deathlock, and he jumps down using Captain America's shield to break their fall, and they break into the lake down below. Then another ship lands, and out steps Deadpool, Wolverine, Angel, and Psylocke with the real current time versions. Deadpool looks over at Fanto and he tells him, "You have no idea how close the vote was." "Vote? If we were gonna leave you to die or save you." Wolverine then tells Wade to shut it and asks Le Pew what the story is. So Fanto explains that Mr. Robot Guy and him are holding an unconscious cyborg Captain America and the fate of the world in their hands. They load the cyborg Cap into the ship, and Fanto explains what they're after. After explaining why he didn't destroy the world the first time that he and Wolverine stopped it, they patch into cyborg Captain America's thoughts, and they see who's controlling them. In an alternate future, a program known as Operation Deathlock was started, and every hero that they dropped was changed into a Deathlock, adding to their numbers. The heroes had become their own judge, jury, and executioner. They welcomed the change, and in the end, everyone was a Deathlock. The plan had succeeded. So Wolverine demands to know why they came back in time if their plan had worked, and Cyborg Cap explains, because of Apocalypse. Angel tells him that that is impossible. They killed Apocalypse. Why send back an army of Deathlocks to kill Fantomex? He's the one that killed Apocalypse. And Fantomex interrupts, stating the obvious. None of this matters. If they can kill Father, they'll end this. So where is Father? Cyborg Cap then tells him, deep in the world, where he always is. So Fanto decides that it's time to kill the future. And he moves out to the desert, which is the perfect place to expand the self-contained laboratory known as the World. They walk inside, and Fantomex locks them in and shoots the lock. Why did you do that? Do you think it'll lock even tighter? Psylocke asks him. It works in the movies, he tells her as they walk deeper inside. Then they split up to cover more ground. The team ends up fighting against the defenses and the cyborg versions of themselves, and it's Deadpool that finds the Father. And as he prepares to kill him, takes a knee in front of him, and the Father refers to Deadpool as his favorite son. Meanwhile, Fantomex has found his way into a lab within the World, the one where his own project is being kept, the one that he's trying to keep secret from X-Force and Father. He needs to ensure that it will remain safe. But that's when he sees a line in the computer coding, one that states, "I know what you've been working on, and now I know where it is." Fanto is confused. How could Father have tracked him unless he's been misdirected the whole time? He turns around, pulling his gun out into the face of Deathlock, the person that was supposedly following him to help him. Deathlock then begins to change into the cyborg version of Fantomex. He's been misdirecting himself the whole time. Fanto thinks to himself, It's a little off-putting to be misdirected, and he begins to fight against his own future cyborg self. Luckily, that's when Fanto's own experiments begin to activate. Weapon 15, Ultimaton, and it blasts the evil Fantomex. Then Cyborg Wolverine jumps in to keep fighting Fanto. He shouts out for Ultimaton to seal up the lab, and that's when he gets clawed in his back. Back in Father's room, though, Deadpool is watching this happen on a computer screen, and Father tells him, Fanto is a spoiled child, and you are the proper heir to everything. As they watch Fanto dying, Father tells Deadpool, your father is so proud. You'll get a cake for this raid, and a kiss on the forehead as I tuck you in. Deadpool thinks to himself, yeah, that's gonna be wait a second. Did that creepy old man just say he was planning on kissing me and tucking me in? No, that doesn't sound right. And he turns around, cutting off Father's head, as he calls him the creepy uncle. With the death of Father, all of the Deathlocks vanish because that timeline doesn't exist. Everyone meets back up at the edge of the world, and Deadpool arrives with Father's bloody head on the end of his sword, telling everyone, he was a loafer. Then, as the original Deathlock looks into the deep depths of the world, Fantomex tells him it's time to go. There's nothing to see here. So what was Fantomex working on that he needed to protect? Well, the world has the technology to create super soldiers and clone individuals. And deep down inside, Fantomex is raising his own clone of an individual, someone named Insabadne, or you may know him by his more common name, Apocalypse. Wade Wilson, also known as Deadpool, is in an army base snooping around. He calls back to inform Wolverine that there's nothing here, and Wolverine tells him, keep looking, bub. Meanwhile, Deathlock, the original cyborg individual, has joined up with the X-Force and is discussing the objects in Fantomex's museum with him, while Psylocke is helping strengthen the walls within Warren's mind. You see, a long time ago, Apocalypse came and he turned Warren into one of his horsemen. The persona is known as Archangel, or Dark Angel, is a pure evil, and is now locked within the mind of Warren. It's Psylocke that daily goes in and strengthens the hold on Archangel, because she fears that if she removes him, she'll do damage to Warren's mind. That's when Wolverine comes over and wakes her up from her trance. They have a mission before them. Deadpool stops answering his comms, and Wolverine thinks that they need to go retrieve him. They break inside of the base and they hide in the outskirts of it while Psylocke sends an astral projection of herself inside. She walks right into the main chambers where she sees the villain Amal. He's the one behind this. He was also expecting them. On the outskirts of the base, he grabs a hold of Deadpool using his mind control, and the various guards around them turn into Amal's thugs. Then as Fantomex turns to his friends for help, he sees that Amal's also taken hold of Angel and Wolverine. Idiots. Why am I the only one with a telepathic dampening field? Fantomex says as he begins to lift up Psylocke's body. Deadpool leaps in at him, and then Wolverine jumps over, cutting off Fantomex's arms. Except none of it happened. Fantomex misdirected them and made a break for it with Psylocke's body. Meanwhile, on the mental landscape, Psylocke and Amal are battling it out. Amal digs deeper into Psylocke's mind, pulling out the bad memories and the other thoughts that she doesn't want Amal to have. Realizing what he's done, she gets out of the mental landscape, kicking Wolverine in the head as he's about to kill her, and then she begins to run off because she knows what she has to do. She begins to sprint across the base looking for Warren. She finds him off on his own. She hits him right away with sleep, dropping him. Then she enters his mind, but she finds Amal has already entered the memory in which he locked away Archangel. Amal walks into the room that is the cell for Archangel, and he lowers it. He'll use Archangel against her, but Archangel murders Amal's mental projection, greatly disrupting him. He then takes control of the body that is Warren, and he murders the guard next to them. Psylocke, Wolverine, Fantomex, and Deadpool all walk into the main room where they see Angel standing over the dead body. They all watch as he doesn't say a word before walking out of the base. A few short days later, Amal heads over to a well-known journalist to let him know that he has information on a certain X-Man and a certain Avenger who are both working for a Black Ops team murdering people. The journalist tells him that that would be a bad day to be a mutant, and Amal leaves behind footage of Wolverine and Angel murdering the guards on the military base. News of this travels up the newspaper's chain of command, and as it turns out, Warren Worthington owns that newspaper. So he gets the phone call, and then he informs the editor-in-chief that it is all slander, to kill the story before it's too late. He then walks over to the edge of Cavern X with Psylocke telling him that he's due for his session, and then he ignores her.
You need something?
So Psylocke runs over to inform Wolverine of this potential problem. The editor is quickly discovered as missing, and the journalist seeing this realizes what that means for him, so he begins trying to upload the files so that everyone can see what he's discovered. But it's too late. Archangel is standing behind him, demanding to know where he got that information from. Wolverine comes crashing through a window and he begins to fight it out with Archangel, but Archangel throws Wolverine out the window and then he lets him fall to the street down below. He then chases the journalist up to the rooftop, and as he goes in for the kill, Psylocke hits him with a mental blade, knocking him unconscious. She then wipes the journalist's memories of everything, and they all head back to Cavern X, where they lock up Archangel in a cell. They all come up with a plan. They're gonna need to find a way to safely remove what Apocalypse did to Angel all those years ago. The plan begins with freeing Dark Beast. Now he is an evil version of Beast from a future where Apocalypse won and conquered the world. It's known as the Age of Apocalypse. They bring Dark Beast back to Cavern X, where they tell him right away what's happening. Angel was turned into the heir of Apocalypse, and he is now preparing to move into his proper position. A death seed was planted within Warren that will lead Warren to using the power before him to wipe out all life on the planet and start it anew. He will lead this world to extinction. But since the Celestials are the ones that created the death seed, which can lead to the end of all, they also created a life seed. The only problem is that the life seed, which will free Warren from what's going on with him, won't be created on this Earth for centuries. So they're going to need to go to the only place that he knows one exists, the Celestial Garden in the Age of Apocalypse, his home time. So the plan is set. They will travel to an alternate future where Apocalypse has already won. They'll get the life seed and return to free Warren from the hell that he's going through. X-Force and Dark Beast enter the portal and they arrive on a hellish landscape. Dark Beast then leads the way as they move towards one of his old labs. It is there that they find the life seed that he acquired long ago. But that's when Nightcrawler appears before them, wondering why Dark Beast would bother returning to this time period. And if it's for this particular item, then this item must be important. Dark Beast tases him, dropping him to the ground, and Logan walks over trying to explain the situation to Nightcrawler. But the moment that he sees Logan has his hand, he assumes that Logan is a clone, and bam, he is gone. Psylocke tracks him out to the streets, and the group runs outside to find him. But that's the moment that Sabretooth jumps on Wolverine. The two arch enemies begin swiping and clawing at each other while Deadpool finds Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler exclaims that he is the one that killed Deadpool the first time, so he'll use the same plan, and he bams behind Deadpool, cutting off his head. Then he didn't, because Deadpool's head and body vanished. It was another misdirection from Fantomex, and Fantomex and Deadpool now have the life seed and they're making a break for it. Psylocke stops Sabretooth and Wolverine while Nightcrawler catches up to Fanto and Deadpool, and in the fight, the life seed hits the ground. That is the moment that Sunfire needed to swoop in and grab it. Then, just like the others, he decides that if Dark Beast needs this, it's not good, and he flies up into the sky, throwing it far away from him and blasting it with his powers, destroying it once and for all. To make matters worse, while they were messing around in that fight, Dark Beast walked back to the portal, and then he used it to go back to their Earth, stranding them in the Age of Apocalypse. Once the X-Men of the Age of Apocalypse realize that there is more going on here than Dark Beast making a bunch of clones, they decide to play nice, and they bring these younger X-Men to their base to meet their leader, Jean Grey. This is a bit odd for Wolverine, as he is still in love with Jean, but in his timeline, she died. In this timeline, she married Logan, and then he died when Apocalypse took over. They are both confused by their feelings for each other because they aren't the versions of each other that they fell in love with. But as they finally give into it and lean in for a kiss, something arrives at the window behind them. A giant sentinel. He begins to walk through the glass wall, and he begins to target Jean, so she channels all of the power that she has, and she blasts the sentinel with the power of the Phoenix. Wolverine then asks if this happens a lot, and she tells him that this is the first, meaning that Apocalypse's forces know where the Resistance is now. So they discuss many plans, and they decide that the best course of action at this point would be to attack Apocalypse's forces first and get the other seeds. You see, Dark Beast was lying. There is more than one seed, and the other ones are inside of a defeated Celestial that is on planet Earth. The Resistance also found a mutant with the ability to jump people between dimensions, Gateway, and using him, they can get everyone home. So the plan is set. Attack the Celestial Garden, hopefully pushing them back for the Resistance, get a life seed, and go home saving Archangel. Seems simple enough. While they prepare for their mission, Fantomex decides that it's time to tell Psylocke what he sees in her and Warren's relationship. And he informs her that she doesn't love Warren. She loves
Safe
being
travels.
needed. She punches him across the jaw, telling him, "How dare you!" So he raises his mask and he kisses Psylocke passionately, only to be pushed away when she tells Fanto that she won't be giving up on Warren. With that, everyone loads back up into to be pushed away. "How dare you!" So he raises his mask and he kisses Psylocke. She punches him across the chip, and he informs her that she doesn't love Warren. She loves being needed. She punches him across the jaw, telling him, "How dare you!" So he raises his mask and he kisses Psylocke passionately, only to be pushed away when she tells Fanto that she won't be giving up on Warren. With that, everyone loads back up into Fantomex's ship and they begin their assault. As they walk into the base, Wolverine suggests that Jean and her team come with them. Come back to their world. It's so much nicer than this place. There's no reason for them to stay here. This fight is lost. And that's when the Blob lands in front of them, and behind him is the Black Legion, Grim Chamber, White Cloak, Iron Ghost, Zombie Sentry, Blob, Orange Hulk, Demon Oct, and Beta Red. Nightcrawler turns to his comrades and he tells them to run! This crew is beyond them! Everyone runs down the hallways, choosing to find Gateway and hopefully just get everyone home, and they'll deal with Archangel then. But as they are assuming everything will be okay, that they've won, the Wolverine of this time blasts his own daughter, killing her, and tells everyone, "This is going to hurt."
While everyone in the Age of Apocalypse thought that they had lost Wolverine, it turns out that he is the heir to Apocalypse, and the whole world right now is because of him. The X-Men and the Black Legion begin to battle it out with no other option. Heroes are being lost at every turn, beginning with Gambit sacrificing himself. But while this is going on, Logan begins swiping at his evil doppelganger with the mutant Gateway bound up behind them. Deadpool and Nightcrawler begin to jump into the battle against the evil Wolverine. An evil Wolverine grabs Deadpool by the throat, telling him, "You need to go home. There is nothing to be gained from killing you." And Deadpool responds with, "That's like crazy reasonable, but you just killed your own daughter, and she's kind of the daughter of our Wolverine, and he's kind of our boss." So the evil Wolverine throws Deadpool aside. "Fine, you weren't born of this world, but I will bury you here." Then Jean tells everyone to stop as she floats over to evil Wolverine. They were married, they were together, and he traded it all in for this fate. He invites Jean to join him. Once the culling is done, they can live happily ever after right here. She considers it for a second, she legitimately does, and then she bombards him with the power of the Phoenix. It doesn't even faze Dark Wolverine as he smacks her aside, and then he picks her up and flies off. He will force her to be his dark bride if he has to. But as he's preparing the ritual, Wolverine and the X-Force leap in on top of him now that they've accomplished all of their separate missions. And Deadpool says it best, "Hot Wolverine on Wolverine action!" With everyone swinging at evil Wolverine, he is slightly distracted, and Psylocke tries to patch into his mind, but he has defenses that he throws it back at her. Then as our Wolverine goes in to rescue this version of Jean, Dark Wolverine cuts him in half with a laser beam. Then everyone vanishes because it didn't happen! Phantomex is at it again! Psylocke then realizes that Phantomex is back, which means he must have all of those extra life seeds that they found inside of the Celestial. "Use one of them on Dark Wolverine," she shouts at him. "Make him normal again!" And Phanto holds up the seed with a sad face, telling her, "There's only one, Psylocke, and if we use it, we can't save Warren." So Jean tells the X-Force to take it and leave. Wolverine turns to her, "There's no way I'm leaving you with this chump." He then turns to the X-Force, "Take that chump down!" But even Phantomex can see that Wolverine's judgment is clouded. Jean sees that he won't give up, so using her powers, while her resistance holds back the Dark Wolverine, she lifts up the X-Force. Wolverine tells her to stop. "I won't let you do it. I won't abandon you again, Genie." "You are going to abandon me, Logan, because I'm not your genie." Then looking at Dark Wolverine, she tells him, "I'm his. Goodbye. Save your world." And she sends them through Gateway's portal with the one life seed. Then they land right in front of the last person they wanted to see, Warren, with the Dark Angel persona in full control and his own army. "Thank you for bringing me the life seed. Now, please, hand it over. This story is only just beginning." Wolverine, Phantomex, Deadpool, and Psylocke now all stand ready to do what they have to, with Deathlock bound by Angel's followers already. Phantomex uses his powers of misdirection right away, only to fall to the ground, with Dark Beast telling him, "We've got a plan in place to prevent that." So Wolverine gets his claws ready. "Worthington, you son of a bitch! I haven't used any incendiary language. Why escalate things?" Wolverine dives in, slashing up Warren's armor, but then a child named Genocide that looks like pure radiation blasts away half of Wolverine's body, bringing it down to the bones. Psylocke runs to assign an attempt to block the nerve endings in Wolverine's body so that he can't feel the pain, and then she turns to Warren. "How could you do this?" And Warren calls for Famine, one of his horsemen. Deadpool sees him. "Aw, come on, not the Jenny Craig drum machine." Then he hits the ground, instantly starving. "Ugh, that feels awful! Like diarrhea made of sadness and anger!" Angel then walks over to Phantomex. "The life seed, please, Phantomex." In response, Phantomex stabs him in the foot. "Ugh!" Warren yells out. "I never liked you." Psylocke goes right to work cutting up the Horsemen of War. Then she leaps over, cutting up the arm of Dark Beast, and as Warren goes in to kill Phantomex, she stabs him in the chest from behind. Angel turns around to see her struggling with his followers, and he tells them not to harm her. She is important. Meanwhile, Deadpool has dragged himself over to Deathlock, where he learns that they took control of the world, a place where all kinds of experiments have been conducted, and Phantomex has been guarding it. Then, with a smoke grenade, everyone runs out of the room as quick as they can. They eventually make it back to Phantomex's ship, where they take off, deciding that they can't fight with only half of Wolverine, a famous Deadpool.
Good day to you.
and an injured Fantomex. But as they leave, Psylocke jumps off the ship, landing in front of Warren, telling him, "I'm not giving up on you, Warren." She tries to tell him that she will save him. Warren has to be in there. But he informs her, "This is my evolution. This is what I was always supposed to become." She wants to know, is he supposed to become Apocalypse? Because they just escaped a world run by Apocalypse, and it was a nightmare. But Warren explains that he is here because the world has been distorted. When the Scarlet Witch said no more mutants, she reduced their numbers to less than 200. The natural evolution of mankind has been altered, and he plans to correct that. He flies high into the sky and he brings Genocide with him, and they land in the middle of a town where he launches into the sky again and he watches. Genocide hits the ground hard, and in a massive explosion, the town and the lands around it are destroyed and altered, wiped clean from the face of the earth in a mushroom cloud. Angel then brings Dark Beast to the spot where he places the life seed, and they watch as it expands, and it begins to alter the very face of Earth, creating a new evolution, a new path. Time begins to move at an accelerated rate around them while they are protected in their laboratory. And while they are safely removed from their time sphere, they watch the effects of the life seed, and they watch as 120 million years of evolution happen in the span of a single day in front of them. Meanwhile, X-Force isn't quite done yet. Deadpool's eating some cheesy chum-chums to replenish himself while Wolverine is trying to heal. But Fantomex has found the world. Since it was his laboratory, he has his ways to track it, and he sees that this weird forest is now in front of them. They land and they begin looking for Angel and his followers when suddenly Deadpool hits the ground again. Damn it, Famines! Dope Beats got me again! So Deathlock cuts the magic carpet that they are both riding on in half, throwing Famine and Death down to the ground. Angel then lands over by Fantomex, prepared to continue their fight, while Deathlock continues to tear apart Death. Angel pins Fanto to the ground. Fanto fires a shot into the sky, and Angel thinks that he's won until Fanto's sentient bullet comes back, hitting Angel in the head. Genocide then lands next to him, telling Angel to leave while he handles this rat. And as Angel leaves, Fanto taunts him. "Oh, come on, at least acknowledge that you're leaving because this rat beat you." As Genocide begins to blast at Fantomex, he begins to retreat, and then he finds Deadpool sitting around eating what appears to be a weird fruit. Figured you dropped the ball. Oh, and what did you accomplish today, Wade? We killed Death and caught Famine? We? Well, Deathlock did. Good. Let's get his master's location. Funny, that's what I said, and it looks like Deathlock's psychopathic host is back in control because he kind of smiled. Meanwhile, back over outside of San Francisco, Angel reports back to Beast that Death is dead. Beast informs him that he'll need to pick a new horseman of death, and then they both fly up to the dead body of a Celestial, as it appears that a Celestial's decision was to force evolution, and Angel serves evolution. Back with X-Force, Deathlock comes out after torturing Famine for the information, and he discovers that Angel has retreated to Ankaba, a city underneath the North Pole. Fantomex tells everyone that they need to stop Angel before he does this crazy single-day evolution thing to the entire planet. As they speak, he's trying to scorch the skies. The age of Archangel is coming. Luckily, Deathlock, Fantomex, and Deadpool have all arrived in the North Pole to stop the age of Archangel from happening. Meanwhile, back in Fantomex's ship, Famine has begun to tap his finger on the chair, starting a beat that leads to an explosion. With Fantomex's ship beginning to burn due to its bioelectrical nature, Famine stands up and looks down at the recovering Wolverine. "You can burn in hell, boy, like my children did." And he begins to walk off into the snow. Meanwhile, in his base, Warren walks down into Psylocke's cell to inform her of her new role as the new Horseman of Death. Fantomex can see what they're doing at this lab. They're preparing it. So he turns to Deathlock and he tells him, "You gotta go destroy that." Luckily, Deathlock downloaded a map after Fantomex refused to let him destroy the world the last time they had to do a battle with someone trying to take control of the world. "You know, no one likes 'I told you so,' Deathlock," Fanto tells him. And then he and Wade head off to kill Warren. The only problem is that as soon as they get to the roof, the blob crushes Fantomex by sitting on him. Deadpool begins dodging and shooting, and the bullets begin to bounce off of Blob's massive size and skin. And once Deadpool runs out of bullets, the oversized Blob grabs him and gets ready to literally eat Deadpool. He takes out his sword and he stabs the Blob's tongue. Deadpool then hits the ground. "Fantomex, if you can hear me in there, I'm coming for you, buddy!" Except Famine has been watching from overhead, and as he prepares to drop Deadpool again, Wolverine puts his claws to Famine's head. Famine's drums begin to tap, and then the Blob becomes famished, turning into piles of skin. Deadpool watches as this is happening in front of him, and can't help but crack a joke. A bra is a big decision in any man's life, but wow, I just don't see any other options for you. Famine feels the claws against his skull. "You promised that if I did this, you wouldn't kill me. I did, and I won't." Wolverine says as he cuts off Famine's arms. Meanwhile, Warren brings Psylocke into his inner chambers to show her the Death Seed. the very thing that changes a person into a horseman, and the thing that corrupted Warren to begin with. Fantomex crawls out from underneath all of Blob's skin, gasping for air and complaining about the smell, and then he jumps into the nearby water shouting, "Unclean!" As Wade tries to tell Wolverine that he's happy that the leader is back, Wolverine tells him to shut it, he's going for Warren, and he begins to run towards the inner chambers. Fantomex comes up for air only to meet another person to have joined this fight from the Age of Apocalypse, the evil Bobby Drake. This evil Iceman betrayed everyone in the Age of Apocalypse, and now he needs to ensure that his new boss is happy. He takes all of the water from the bay, growing to the size of a building. Wolverine tells Psylocke through their psychic link that he's back and she needs to kill Warren if she has a chance. Seeing a chance, she kicks a gun up into her hands and she opens fire only to have him smirk and tell her, "This is the warrior that I've been waiting for." Deadpool jumps off, slicing off chunks of Bobby, but Bobby responds by creating 3 giant versions of himself, and he blasts Deadpool with his gold beams. As all of the giants form around him and unable to move, Wade thinks back to one thing. "Mr. Krusty Bottoms, my love, my cat, I didn't leave any food out for him, and the darkness will come for him next." Then Bobby shatters the frozen Deadpool into pieces. Back with Warren, he walks Psylocke into a room with an altar. Her being unconscious after he dodged the bullet, he sets her down, informing her that they will rule this new world together. But back at the bay, Fantomex is trying his best to outrun the onslaught of ice that Bobby is throwing at him as he makes his way to the edge, and he leaps off the cliffside. Luckily, his ship is recovered and is waiting for him down there. So as he's landing on it, the ship asks him, "Should I open fire?" And Fanto tells her that we're leaving. Save the energy. Meanwhile, Deathlock has made it to the inner lamps of the world, only to find Dark Beast and the Horsemen of War waiting for him. War strikes him from behind and begins to infect him with pain, fear, loss, murder, rot! He infects him with a desire for war. Wolverine looks over to see Fantomex leaving the whole area as he flees, and he realizes that he was just a bandit. Then Bobby sees him climbing up the side of the tower. So Wolverine jumps off towards the evil Bobby. Back with Angel, he tears open the back of Psylocke's dress and he begins to stab her with the Death Seed. She will know his struggle. Everyone is failing. Deadpool is in pieces. Wolverine is fighting an ice giant. Fantomex is fleeing and Deathlock is being controlled. This may be a loss for our heroes, and the entire world to be gone. Psylocke then gets up as the Horseman of Death and she walks over kissing Warren. And Wolverine is having all of the air around him freeze, and this is causing him to not drop Bobby. Luckily, Fantomex didn't run. He called a few friends that they've made, and he made a time portal to the Age of Apocalypse and brought in the X-Men from that time period. The people that Bobby betrayed. Sunfire, Nightcrawler, Sabretooth, and Jean Grey of the future all arrive and begin taking Bobby apart. With the knowledge that genocide is scorching the atmosphere, Nightcrawler teleports right into the central room, grabbing his hands onto Genocide's helmet. He then teleports himself and Genocide into the room with Angel and Psylocke, and everything begins to burn around them as they take cover. He then teleports over to Psylocke, grabs her, and teleports her back to Wolverine and the rest of them. And they realize she may be lost. Meanwhile, Angel flies into Genocide, trying to get him to contain his flames, and then he tells everyone to see to the boy while he plants the life seed. Evolution cannot be stopped. As Nightcrawler bamfs everyone right into Angel's path, Wolverine starts the fight by slashing at Angel. Seeing his plans of evolution potentially crumbling around him, Angel blasts outside and has Bobby hold Sunfire still while he moves towards the central point in the world where they are scorching the sky. If he could just plant the life seed, this will all be over. Luckily, the heroes still have Nightcrawler, and he bamfs Wolverine and Sabretooth right into the air above Angel, and they tackle him, and they all begin to tumble back down to the earth. Meanwhile, Fantomex is trying to talk some sense into Psylocke, so she pulls out a knife, slicing his throat. Quickly, she realized what she has done and how horrible it was, and with that momentary lapse in her mental fortitude, Jean breaks in, removing the threat of death, trapping it deep inside Psylocke's mind. The real Psylocke begins to wake up in Fanto's arms, and she realizes that he misdirected her. It's what he does! That's when he tells her what she needs to do, and it's not going to be easy. Back on the ground, Sabretooth and Wolverine are hacking and slashing into Angel, but he is able to deflect them both, so Nightcrawler bamfs onto his back, only to be stabbed by Angel's wings. That's the moment that Jean Grey arrives with the power of the Phoenix and begins to burn Angel. Except, Angel's power is greater than that of the Phoenix, and he throws her aside. Wolverine tackles Angel, pinning him to the snow, and that's the moment that Warren speaks out, "Wolverine, kill me while I have control!" This causes Wolverine to pause, so Angel blasts him. Surprised you fell for that. Then as Sabretooth leaps in, Angel guts him, leaving him for dead, and with all 4 of his assailants down, he flies back up to the world prepared to take his victory, only to see Psylocke and Fantomex in his path. They both begin swinging at him, but Angel cracks Fanto in the back of the head, telling him, "You were always angry she picked me over you, weren't you?" He then kicks Psylocke in the gut before getting punched across the jaw by Fanto. Angel finally has had enough as he launches into the sky, launching knives at the 2 of them, and then with the both of them on the ground, he runs over to to bury a knife into Fonto's forehead. Realizing he is at a loss, Fonto radios into the world for his own experiment, and he tells Automaton to release him. Back on the bridge leading to the end of the world, Psylocke bombards Angel, mentally forcing him to the ground, but then he just throws her aside, and he keeps moving. Somewhere else, in virtual reality memories, a young kid Apocalypse going by the name of Evan is leading a happy and normal life. That's when his uncle Cluster, which looks conveniently like Fantomex, walks in and tells him that he has to go. What he's been learning and preparing for is here, and he wakes up from his perfect world into the real world with a suit in front of him. Automaton informs him, Evan, it is time for you to save us all. Back with Angel, he doesn't understand why the world hasn't scorched the earth yet. It should have burned the skies and burned the ground. He then looks up to see Sunfire is absorbing all of the energy. Evan then rockets in out of nowhere, hitting Angel so hard that he bends his back, informing him, "You will not succeed, villain!" The two of them land in the main halls of the world, and they begin their fight, except Evan has all of the power. He is the Genesis! And he blasts Angel back. Automaton walks over to Fantomex, and Fonto tells him that they have to save Sunfire. He can't contain all of that energy. Angel and Evan go back and forth until finally Angel gets the better of Evan, throwing him down, telling him, "It's not your fault. You were born for this." And then with him finally having won, Psylocke stabs him with the life seed. He hits the ground, and he looks up at Psylocke. "Betsy, where am I?" But then the change begins, as beams of light begin to pour out of him. Meanwhile, Sunfire is finally absorbed by the power that he's been trying to stop. Fonto tells Automaton that he needs to save Sunfire. He can't die for a world that isn't his own. But it's too late, and he burns up having prevented the Age of Apocalypse, or the Age of Archangel from ever happening. Warren hits the ground, and Psylocke hits her knees at his side. "Warren, it hurts so bad. Dying, Bets. I'm really..." "No, you're fine. It's gonna be okay, Angel. Just close your eyes." So he does. And instead of feeling the pain and feeling his own death and mortality, Betsy gives him what they both want. A life together. She gives the two of them the mental image of an entire lifetime, where they got married, they had kids, they teach their kids, and they grow old together. And as Warren is dying of old age, he holds Betsy's hand and tells her that he loves her. And she tells him that he deserves all of the happiness in the world. She then kissed him on the forehead, telling him he was her hero. Back in the real world, Fonto tries to snap Psylocke out of the trance that she placed herself into. He tells her that they have to go as the world is crumbling around them. And with tears in her eyes, she tells him to leave her here. Leave her! But he won't. He takes her to the ship where Automaton and Evan are, and they blast off, and they land in the snow far, far away, where they find Deathlock and Wolverine. And, to make things even better, Deathlock collected up all of the pieces of Wade, because he loves him. Deathlock explains that he loves all of them. He had to learn to love to defeat war. And as Psylocke looks into the snow, she sees Warren walking through it. She runs over, kissing him and calling his name, and with the world burning behind them, he asks her, "Who are you?" The life seed remade him as an entirely new person. A true angel. He is no longer Warren Worthington. Now, the Britain Corps has kidnapped both Fantomex and Psylocke. She questioned why he chose this to be involved in with everything that's been going on in the world of the mutants recently. And he explained that because they are in other worlds, it is the duty of the Captain Britain Corps to watch the entire Omniverse, not just his home world. Otherworld is the home of the Captain Britain Corps, and the court of Camelot ruled by King Arthur. It is a world of magic and intrigue, and also where Captain Britain has taken Psylocke and his new prisoner. Psylocke asks him why he has brought her here, and he explains, for the Battle of Otherworld. Brian walks her through the castle, explaining that they need her, and they have no idea who's behind these attacks. But the person behind the attacks, their goal is to reach the Tower Omniverse. Her other brother, Jamie, explains that whoever they are, they know the Corps well, as they've anticipated every move, and that's why they needed to bring Psylocke back. It's one move that no one would expect them to do. Elsewhere, back on Earth, Deadpool, Wolverine, and the Age of Apocalypse version of Nightcrawler that is now joined X-Force are fighting it out with villains when they get a call from Automaton. Psylocke and Fantomex have been abducted from X-Cavern. That's when Brian explains to Psylocke that they took Fantomex to answer for his child-killing ways. Fantomex is an anomaly. He only exists in one reality. Because of that, the punishment will be severe. After his trial, if he is deemed guilty, they will sentence him to being erased from existence. No one will even remember him. He tries to argue that he prevented a war, or possibly 7, but they don't care. They deem him guilty, and they deem the punishment to be severe. The argument is that they have no evidence that the child Apocalypse would have ever actually committed his crimes. They only have facts, and the fact is, Fantomex killed a child. Meanwhile, Wolverine has rounded up Gateway, a friend that can teleport people anywhere, and they have tracked Psylocke and Fantomex to a dimensional disturbance, a doorway to Otherworld. Ultimaton explains that Otherworld is the source of magic, a dimension outside of dimensions, where the denizens guard the intersection between all of reality. Deadpool, with his typical wit, comments, "Magic Land, eh? Well, I'm a 16th level ranger in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Chaotic neutral. Saving throws, oh plenty." As they walk in, Wolverine tries to calm him down. "Ain't really like that, Wade. It's a striking place. Green hills, fairies, pixies, kindly old wizards. I don't think we'll..." But as they enter Otherworld, Deadpool's head is cut off. "Ah! Kindly old wizards!" he says as his head goes flying. The